That said, we've reached quorum, so I'm going to bring the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming here today. I know this isn't our usual meeting time. First up, we have the usual temporary speaking rules motion. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate, whereas the Student Senate bylaws do not specify rules for speaking cues, resolves that the following cue procedures be enforced for all discussions during tonight's meeting. The parliamentarian shall maintain the queue. First in, first out queue structure will be used, and those who have not spoken have higher precedent than those who have spoken. Any member of Senate, committee chair, officer, or guest present may enter the queue by raising their hand and being acknowledged by the parliamentarian. Back and forth is not allowed. Member with the floor may make a comment or ask a question of the presenter and must re-enter the queue if further questions remain. There will be no limit on the time spent on any given motion, but each speaker has 5-minute limit on their discussion. If a speaker asks a question of the presenter will have 5 minutes to respond regardless of the time taken to ask the question. A speaker with the floor may yield their time to another in the room who may speak for the remainder of their time. One who has yielded time may not yield their time further. And finally, a presenter may yield their time to another only if that person can further answer the question posed. No new questions may be posed to another by the presenter without requesting a position on the queue. So basically the exact same rules as last time. Do we have any questions? Oh, thank you. Moved by Shoshana, seconded by Justin.
Okay, we're going to open.
Can't repeat that?
That's true.
All right, seeing none, we move to vote. All those in favor? All opposed? This passes 17-0-1. Moving on then, with speaking rules established, our first order of business is the Constitution Amendment. On behalf of the IFC, James will be giving a brief overview of the IFC before we go into the amendment itself.
Hey guys, my name is James Whalen. I am the IFC Greek Senator. Alright, here's a little terminology for you. IFC, Interfraternity Council, IFC E-Board, we just call it the E-Board, but it's the Executive Board, PanHel, the Pan-Hellenic Council. Who's involved? The general members, anyone that's in a fraternity, current student at RPI, and pays the IFC dues is a member. GBM members, that's one member of every house's E-Board, so one very important person from each house. And so basically the GBM members, there are going to be 30 of these roughly, and then 9 E-Board members from the IFC who are voted in. Greek Judicial Board. So the purpose for them is to enforce fraternity ideas and proper conduct amongst its members. And so this consists of 3 from the IFC and 2 from PanHel. Those are elected in by the IFC EVP. So here are the different E-Board responsibilities and roles. President, EVP, social, risk management, philanthropy, recruitment, PR, scribe, treasurer, and Greek senator. Everyone on here gets a vote except for Greek senator for E-Board meetings. So then elections. So as I said earlier, the Greek Judicial Board is nominated by their chapter and then chosen by the IFC EVP. And then all IFC E-Board positions are elected in November, the second week in November, by 30 IFC delegates. They all have an equal vote, so it's, I believe, a majority. Tyler?
Simple majority.
Simple majority. All right, so these are our big events during the entire year. Starts out with Fall Rush with Meet the Greeks and Bid Commitment Day, as well as a Greek 101. And then later on, we've got Charity Pasta Dinner, and then it gets into spring semester where we have Spring Rush, Hazing Prevention Week, Easter Egg Hunt, Fire Safety Week, and Greek Week. Oh, I think I skipped one. Yeah, consistent events. These happen on a consistent basis. Regional meetings, letters for letters, charity events, running bids, President's Round Table, and block parties. The big ones here are letters for letters and also charity events, because those are the most fun. And then how to best use the IFC. It's huge for philanthropic and social events. You now set up GBMs and then every fraternity knows what's happening with them. Then you can also work with other fraternities. A lot of them are working right now for a new idea behind I think they're trying to get something behind like Freshman Hill, and they're trying to do a little get together there and almost a lip sync. become more social and involved on campus. That's basically just talking to other people, seeing what they're doing, spreading ideas. Learn risk management skills to make sure that no one gets in trouble, there are no fires and hazards like that. Basically keeping your house clean and safe. Recruit new members and win letters for letters. Everyone loves winning letters for letters. Meeting times and locations, the e-board, Tuesday 8 p.m., SGS or Union 3511. The GBM, we hold those on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. And then the J-board is whenever the chairman calls for it. Questions?
All right, we're going to open a queue. This queue is for the sole purpose of discussing any terminology or questions regarding the IFC. This is not for discussing the motion, which has not been brought up yet. The queue is open. Justin.
Very small question. What is letters for letters?
So letters for letters, it's every Thursday from 12 to 4. You can go to the DCC or you can tweet in a photo of you wearing your letters. And basically then it's randomly chosen, one person from the DCC and one from online on Twitter. And they win a free set of letters, their letters.
Okay.
Can you describe to the floor the current process for selecting the IFC senator, when that selection takes place, and what individual houses have to do with that process?
All right, so basically what happens is you get all 30 GBM members, so that's one representative from each house, into the room for the GBM, and they all cast an equal vote onto selecting every e-board position. So Greek senator, PR, social, everything like that, so everyone has an equal say. And that's it. And Jacob?
It's not 30 right now, is it? Because Deeks doesn't get a vote yet.
They do not get a vote yet, that's correct.
Okay, just making sure.
Right.
So it's only 29.
It's 29, I'm sorry, one off.
The queue is empty.
Seeing no further comments, then we're going to move on. Thank you, James. Okay, next up, we're going to have the constitutional amendment. You may notice this is labeled. Listen up, guys, no side comments. You may notice this is labeled as Amendment 6. This is because one of our amendments failed previously. These amendments would be placed on the ballot in the order in which we passed them, hence the change in numbering. Nate, would you like to describe it?
Yeah. I'm Nate James still. This is the third time I've given a presentation about this one, so I'm just going to talk about Greek changes in general. The Student Senate, basically what we did is we have removed mention of the Interfraternity Council and the Panhellenic Council from the Union Constitution. What this means is the Senate no longer has to approve changes to the IFC and Panhellenic Constitutions. The J-Board no longer can rule actions taken by the IFC as being against the Union Constitution. And yeah, those are the big things from that point of view. The other thing is the IFC and Panhell would no longer appoint their senators. Instead, they would be by popular vote of the entirety of the Greek constituency. Yes, that pretty much describes it.
Okay, to read the motion, the Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate resolves to approve the attached Union Constitution Amendment on the Interfraternity Council and Rensselaer Panhellenic Association to be placed on the ballot during GM Week 2015. So moved by the Union Constitution Committee and presented by Nate James. You can use your laptops for this to look at the amendment.
All right, we're going to open a queue for discussion of Amendment 6, Greek changes. Yes, Joe.
Nate, quick question for you, or Jane has to answer this. So the J-Board can no longer rule an action unconstitutional by IFC or Panhell. Then what kind of judicial procedures in place so if someone does break a rule, that they'll be disciplined for it? What's going to be the new process for that?
I'm going to pass this to James if you want.
Yeah, in my history here of a year and a half, I've never seen the judicial board here at the school rule any actions unconstitutional. I know that the Greeks have our own judicial board, so that's made up of 3 IFC and 2 Panhellenic. And so basically they are the body that would rule anything unconstitutional or against the IFC bylaws or anything.
Thank you.
Ken?
Is there a reason that they decided, or whoever composed this decided to go for a simple majority of all the Greek members of a popular vote instead of 1 vote per house? Is there a reason they decided not to go with Volker House?
Basically, the IFC and independent senators, well, I should say Greek senators and independent senators. The independent senators used to be elected by the independent council. Following its dissolution, all senators are popularly elected by the constituencies they represent. So if we kept it with just them being by part of the Greeks, then we would have them being the only ones appointed. The point of the Senate is that they should be representing it by popular vote, and that's really what we're looking at here, and that's why I want to do. So all Greeks vote during GM week, as opposed to being at a GBM of the IFC. So that's really what we're looking for.
Jen?
I'm a little worried about how easy it is to, I guess, count votes for a Greek constituency, especially if the e-voting isn't set up. Do you have any comments on how that would work, I guess?
I'm just going to say I believe e-voting is set up, and I've been assured by members of Rules and Elections that it's possible to do this. I'm going to go to Paul.
So one of the things that the e-voting system we have set up, since it just pulls from everybody's student account, which is updated with the roster of everybody's entry cohort, their credits, and also their Greek or independent status. It's just when you, as we'll explain next meeting, swipe your written card to vote, it just pulls that information, so only the Greeks can vote in the Greek election and only independents can vote in the independent election.
Paul?
Just two things. First, I believe one of the reasons that this was actually brought up is because the IFC and PANHEL are separately constituted bodies, and since they have their own constitutions, the union telling them that something they did is unconstitutional, whether or not it's unconstitutional, actually has no effect in general. And just the second is that these changes seem to make sense and be what the IFC and PANHEL seem to want. And I yield my time to Tyler if he has any comments on that.
Yeah, she said it.
Okay. Steve?
My question was actually incredibly similar to Paul's. It was, did the union actually have any jurisdiction over IFC and PANHEL to begin with, or are we kind of taking that, are we kind of removing that jurisdiction?
Technically, yes. I guess if they wanted to change their constitution, it had to be approved by Senate, and it was written in that the J board could rule something if there's unconstitutional. Now, both IFC PANHEL and the J board requested these changes. Yeah, so it really, I don't see it as a loss of union power. The J board felt that they had no grounds to rule anything the IFC did unconstitutional, especially because the IFC and PANHEL are both run by their own constitutions, and the IFC felt basically the same way. So, yeah.
Anthony?
Yeah, to echo what Nate was saying, basically, even if we ruled something unconstitutional, it really had no effect. So it was kind of pointless to have that in there. And to echo some of the earlier question of why we decided to go with popular vote, also, even if a house got behind one candidate, no house has a supermajority on campus. So it's going to be, they're representing all Greeks, so you're not necessarily encouraged to just vote for your own house, but somebody who can represent you well in the Senate.
Jenna?
So Anthony kind of addressed my point, but what's to say that in the future there won't be a supermajority or a group of like 6 or 7 people that now are having trouble getting somebody elected to PANHEL or not, or to being a Greek senator? So how would you do? I yield the rest of my time to you.
I mean, that's, again, kind of like it could happen, the same thing could happen with independence, I guess. Anywhere where it's popular vote, you could have somebody who's, if they have like a huge group behind them. But I think we should leave it open for people to, if a lot of people like that house for some odd reason, that's their prerogative. We don't control where people go.
Justin?
This is about the voting. So I know Greek status is for people who are members of a fraternity or sorority, and independent status if you're not. Where does someone, if you're currently pledging, are you Greek or independent? I guess I'm yield my time to Paul for that one.
The status of somebody, whether or not they're counted as Greek, is decided by the dean of students from the list of people. And I give it to Tyler James.
Can we hear you? Tyler's been yelled at to Paul. Paul, continue,
So,
please.
pledges are, I don't know,
Yes.
ask
Pledges are counted.
Yeah.
As-
IFC members would know the difference. I'm not gonna talk out of my butt.
Case?
My question was answered.
Mike?
So mine's similar to points of Justin's and Jen's, but how current is this list you guys have, R&E, and how often is it updated? As if you stop paying your fees, do you stop being Greek immediately, or is there some kind of what we're looking at? Anthony.
So we can pull nightly from the school, so it's pretty up to date. I'm not sure exactly when, I think it's on a Greek house report to the school that they're no longer a dues paying member, so that's kind of on the house now.
James?
Okay, I think I've got a three-parter-ish. So first part, do you see a problem with the popular vote for Panhellenic elections? Like following up with that, like considering there are 5 houses and one with a minority of members. There's one house, I think it's Sigma Delta, who has like 20 members.
Okay, so you're asking me.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
What's important here to state is that one Greek senator will be from a fraternity, basically IFC, and one will be from Panhell, but they're elected by the entirety of the Greek constituency. So all IFC members vote on the Panhell member, and all Panhell members vote on the IFC member, so to speak, because they're representing Greeks, not their, smaller subclass. So what's important here is even if you're a Sigma Delta, maybe you don't have as much Panhellenic support, but if you're competent and you run a good campaign, you can get IFC support the same way. So maybe someone in Alpha Phi might get 60 votes or whatever from Alpha Phi, but it's only 60 out of 1,300 that they have to convince from the rest of the constituency. So maybe you have the majority of Panhell, but not necessarily the entirety of the Greek vote.
All right, my other part is what happens if no one runs for Greek senator, and I yield my time to Kyle.
What happens if no one runs for Greek senator?
Yeah.
As with any position, if there was literally nobody and there was no one even written into the ballot who could eligibly take the seat, and literally the options R&E is given is 0 out of 0, the position would be vacant and it would have to follow the appointment procedure for a vacancy.
James, you all set? Okay. Jacob?
Okay, so this is about the writing out of the Constitution, not as much about the election procedure, and it's about the jurisdictional issue. Because last year when I was serving as IFC Vice President of Public Relations, Frank Abissi, who proposed an almost identical constitutional amendment, explained why he wanted to write them out, and that technically right now the union does have jurisdiction over IFC and Panhill, and that could be concerning because people like the admin office or in student life could use that jurisdiction to weasel their way in to try to regulate Greek affairs, because technically the union constitution allows them to do that. And Frank seemed to think that that was concerning, that Greeks would be better protected under the Dean of Students' office. So that's definitely something to consider when making this decision. Not only is it useless in that neither body recognizes their ability to utilize that jurisdiction, but it could also be potentially detrimental to the Greek community if it continues to be there.
All set? Jacob, you good?
Yeah, okay.
Tina?
I'm looking at Article 5, Section 3, under the Judicial Board.
Hold on 1 second, we'll close it out.
You just tap on where you can tap on your face.
Continue.
So C, the second C, has independent counsel still listed in there, and I don't think it was removed in the other amendments.
It was. It's
It
removed.
was.
It's removed in Amendment 1, General Changes.
Okay, I just missed it in Amendment 1 then. Okay, I just want to check, make sure.
All set? Paul?
I think I answered my thing earlier, pass.
Ken?
One question, why are we having people who are affiliated with the IFC vote for the Panhell senator and vice versa if they have very different agendas, I guess, and they stand for different things?
I guess my answer to that is I don't think they do stand for different things. I look at them as Greek organizations. So really what you're looking at is the 1,300 members of this campus that are Greek. Okay, the fact that some of them are female and some of them are male is kind of.
Then why have a Panhell senator and a IFC senator at all instead of just having 2 Greek senators where it's open for both men and women to vote or to run for each position? And it could be 2 women, 2 men, 1 of each. Doesn't matter.
the point of this Constitution as a whole is to make changes that certain groups feel are necessary and to better reflect the way government is currently run. And the point, I guess a few things on that. One, they are a little different in some ways, but it doesn't mean you don't have a voice on the other person in my mind. So it's nice to have both groups represented, but I think that they can have support from another section. Secondly, this has been part of PanHel. I guess this is what we agreed on, and I think it makes sense for all bodies able to come to this as a better conclusion. Is really what I guess I'm going for. I'm trying to do things that groups agree with, and this is something that IFC and PanHel both agreed with.
Jess?
I guess I was just going to respond real quick to you as well. Because there is one female and one male elected, even though it's all Greeks electing them, they still will have that individual voice that they can kind of bring back from their respective groups, I guess.
Jacob?
I also want to clarify, since Jess is part of Psi Epsilon, she could be the IFC rep, so you could have 2 females, but, I'll let everyone know.
Justin?
Why is it A, B, C, D, E, F, C, D?
Okay, as we said before, Constitution Amendment number 1 allows the correct numbering of things.
Okay.
So this has all the other changes just added. The numbering will be fixed if Amendment 1 passes, and actually, even if it doesn't, we'll make the numbers look right. It's a friendly change.
Okay.
So I'm sorry it doesn't look right here, and as you look at amendment by amendment, it's hard to look at it, but it will be correctly numbered when all things are done.
Kyle?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. The difference between the numbering changes in Amendment 1 and friendly things like this is friendly things like this don't further subdivide or change the way clauses are divided. Amendment 1 will be doing some further subdivision to make clauses easier to reference, because that is technically not a friendly change. But relabeling, making this go, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, instead of E, F, C, D, that's friendly, that can just be done.
The queue is empty.
Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we're going to move to vote. Anybody? Okay, rereading the motion then. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate resolves to approve the attached Union Constitution Amendment on the Interfraternity Council and the Rensselaer Panhellenic Association to be placed on the ballot during GM Week 2015. So moved by the Constitution Committee, presented by Nate James. This requires a 2/3 of present and voting to pass. All those in favor?
Please raise your hands and keep them high.
That's unanimous. Okay, all opposed? All right, motion passes 20-02. As it stands, we currently have one more planned amendment. Pending Constitution tonight, there may be 1 or 2 in addition. We should know this by tomorrow. These will all be taken care of on Thursday, so congratulations everybody on getting through this as far as we have. It's been a lot of hard work, but I'm proud of everything you guys have done this past week. Moving on then. We have 2 presentations by Rules and Elections. The first is going to be on the new petition site, which was demoed back in November, I believe, and will be voted on this coming Thursday. The second is on the GM Week handbook. There are 3 motions associated with these presentations. I'll describe them after Paul presents. Paul, whenever you're ready.
So we're doing the presentation then bylaws amendments?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm going to ask to put computers away for now, by the way. The first thing we're going to be voted on has been printed out. You can see the copies of the bylaw change around on the table in front of you. What?
Well,
Well, usually it is.
You're all set, Paul.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paul. As you guys all know, I'm the current chair of the Rules and Elections Committee. And this is our presentation about the referendum, or the petition and referendum handbook, which is kind of just, well, I guess we'll describe in the presentation. But to go with first things first, the most important things. Happy late birthday, Shush. What? Moving on. She's not here. Disclaimer. Okay, so the Union Constitution goes over the handbook in case we accidentally said something that contradicts it or something. And a lot of the stuff we put into the handbook, which is explaining the actual referendum process and some other things, is just taking information from the Union Constitution and putting it into the handbook so it's in one place for students to be able to read instead of them having to go and thumb through the entire Constitution to find things in different sections. And just for this, thanks to the internet and the people who helped us comment on making the thing, WebTech Committee who made the site, RIT Student Government who we worked with, it was RIT.
Yeah, it was RIT.
Okay, worked on in making the petition website and had some feedback and interaction with, and the Rules and Elections Committee who has to deal with my random tangents and bullcrap on a weekly basis. Okay, so why did we do this? We decided that after certain incidents that happened last year, which are a different story for a different day, that the place of petitions and referendums need to be defined in the space-time continuum as currently they're in the nether, and we'd like to be able to place them somewhere specific like that. And also to make the process easier for people to be able to understand it and make petitions, and also make the rules and define the process of how petitions would work for the new RPI petitions website, which we will be talking to you about on Thursday. So currently the process of making a petition is you get a piece of paper, you go write down what you want to have as your petition, and you just go out and get the people who are members of the constituency who it affects. Like if you wanted to impeach a certain senator, you would have the people who they represent as senator. If you wanted somebody to make a petition saying, hey, we need to fix that water fountain that doesn't work in the union, you just get anybody to sign it. Once 20% of the student body signs it, you bring it into R&E, and it gets turned into a referendum or something. This is long and boring and requires walking around and kills trees, which makes trees sad. And how you petitionicate the new way using our new site that WebTech made, which is petitions.rpiwtg.com. And on the site, it has a bunch of different features which we'll explain and go into more detail on Thursday when we're actually presenting the site itself. But you'll make a petition, and when you're in the process of making a petition, you'll post a little bit of a blurb explaining what the petition means, what you want to accomplish, or your reason for making it. And also, you'll get signatures on it. The signatures on the website will just be shown as initials. So if I saw a petition that was posted by somebody else and I liked it and I wanted to sign it, I'd sign it with my RCS ID, I'd signature it, and then it would just show PI, my initials, as the signature there, and that one more person has signed it. And the petition website will be moderated by both WebTech and Rules and Elections Committee, and sponsors will be notified if their petition is pulled off the website. And the main reasons we're looking at for the reasons to pull something off will be if it's inappropriate, like saying that Paul's mother smells like hamsters or his dad's an elderberry or something of that persuasion. If it's just out of the scope of the Senate, like saying something like, hey, the Senate should give us money to get benches or something that's the e-board or fix or somebody else's job. Or if it's a duplicate, like the day after somebody posted a petition about getting Arizona, there was another petition put up saying we should get Arizona. We would just say, hey, there's an Arizona petition, you should work with that person instead of splitting numbers up and getting everything confused and jumbled up. Okay, so after a petition's on the website, if it applies to a different body of student government, it will get forwarded to them. If the student senate is looking at it and thinks that, hey, this is an important thing, we should address it, then we can just choose to address it at any point in time and ask the sponsor of that petition, who's the person who makes the initial post, to address it, and the sponsor will be notified, and they'll be able to come into the Senate meeting where we discuss it. And once it reaches the magic number, which currently is 250, but some people think it should be higher, some people think it should be lower. So right now it's 250. If we want to amend that, we can amend that. What?
Keep going.
Okay. And like I just said, no matter what happens, when we're discussing a petition in the Senate meeting, then the person who sponsors the petition will always be invited in to be at the meeting, be kind of a presenter for it, so they'll be able to speak for it, why they started it, why they think it's a good idea, and necessary behind the back. Bang. Okay. So a petition transmogrifies into which actually is a real word. Into a referendum when either 2/3 of the student senate votes to pass it, or it's signed by 20% of a certain constituency of a student body. Like, for example, if it relates to something with a specific senator, 20% of their constituency. If it relates to something for the whole school, 20% of the entire student body. And referendums, they're voted on under student body-wide elections, which happen under certain circumstances, which are explained more in detail in the Constitution itself. And there are other things that happen with referendums, like they have to be advertised in the poly, they have to be sent to the board of trustees and some other people. Anyways, so referendums are a thing. Postering. So right now, this is kind of the major change that's happening, which is the fact that postering for referendums is being described in the new petitions and referendum extended sign policy, which the student handbook gives the student senate the power to make things like extended sign policy, which go over institute sign policy. And the main changes for the extended sign policy for referendums and petitions is you'll be allowed to poster for them year round to allow for more advertising and discourse about petitions or referendums that somebody has that they want to get more signatures for, or just to help people know about them so they can vote yes or vote no. Whether or not, if somebody wants to advertise for, or somebody wants to advertise against a petition, they'll be able to put up posters to advertise either way. People will be able to submit platforms or statements about petitions if they want to, which will be shown on the Rules and Elections website. And due to popular demand, anonymous campaigning for petitions is back. So if you do or you don't want to, you can submit petitions. And to be honest, if people are putting up posters, it's not like we can get people in trouble if we don't know who's putting up posters, so it's just like, yeah. And the end.
Before we open a
That's
queue
our
on this, we're going to move on to the first of two motions. Associated with the presentation, we have a bylaws amendment, which establishes the precedent for R&E to set rules along with a few other standards. And then there is the motion adopting the handbook that Paul described here. So the first of the two, the Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate, whereas the Student Senate bylaws do not contain rules or procedure governing the Rensselaer Union petition process, resolves to approve the attached amendment to the Student Senate bylaws. So moved by Joseph Venusto and seconded by Paul E. Laurie.
You not read my name? It's right there.
Joey V, if you
Thank
prefer.
Okay, we're gonna be opening up a queue for discussion of the petitions bylaws amendment. Justin.
I'd like to propose an amendment to the amendment. It's purely grammatical, should only take a few minutes. Under D, I, it says charging, followed by charge, vote, and refer. It's parallel structure, so it's wrong. So it needs to say charge one or more senators, not charging. And furthermore, under C, within 1 month of its posting, probably should say within 1 month of its creation, just because in case there's ever not a website, it would still be in effect. So I have it on paper if you want to know.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, is that friendly? You moved it, Joe.
Oh. I guess I'll call it.
Okay, that's taken care of then.
On the line.
Tina.
I think in your presentation, if you go
Paul.
back a few slides, Paul,
Tell me when to stop.
the one where you said about how long, right there. It says when it reaches the magic number, will be addressed by the Senate within 3 weeks, and on here it says within 10 academic days. Am I misinterpreting something?
Yeah, 3 weeks, 10 days.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, that we should make those agree. In the document, it says 3 weeks. I have the habit of not paying attention to things that I do sometimes. So
So this should be 3 weeks.
Yes.
Are you motioning?
So I am motioning to make this
Second.
15 academic days.
within 15 academic days. Yeah.
Second.
We have a second, is that friendly?
Friendly, I guess.
Okay, that's friendly.
Jess?
I just have a question, and then maybe a follow-up. Members of the union, does that refer to activity paying students?
Yes, it's defined in the Constitution.
So my follow-up, I guess, to that is, in the rest of the Constitution, does it refer to them as members of the union or activity fee paying students?
Members of the union.
Kyle?
I'll pass, I think Tina covered me.
Mike?
Okay, so, the threshold of 250 signatures within 1 month of its posting, I want to amend that to say within, a semester of its posting.
Sounds good.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sounds good.
So you're calling that friendly? You want it to be a semester instead of a month?
Wait, that's not.
I wouldn't call that friendly. Let's let the Senate discuss that.
I mean, I can be hostile if you want. Hostile.
Unfriendly.
Let's open this up
We
for that.
didn't intend to put it.
Okay.
This is probably.
Okay, just open this up. It changes the intent completely, yeah, it's not just a word change.
Still be, it's still friendly.
So this meeting would take
We're just opening this up to discuss Tina's, or Mike's, sorry, Mike's amendment.
Yes, please talk about it. It's being rolled on friendly to the chair.
Yes, so it's changing, the threshold from being 250 signatures within 1 month of its creation to being 250 signatures within 1 semester of its creation.
Cool. Alright, so the reason I'm doing this is because a month's pretty short and I feel like it'll be 32 days and it'll pass the petition and then they're like, well, we can't do anything about it. So I think a semester is a decent amount of time, if not too short still, to at least have things done. If you're afraid that a semester is too long, you can put more restrictions on other things, but I think a semester is a decent amount of time for us to decide stuff in the first place.
Paul?
Yeah, when Arnie was in committee discussing the petition handbook and stuff, we didn't really intend for there to be a time limit on how long things had to be on the site to reach that number. It was just one of those things where I'm rushing around doing classes and stuff. I was in class for a while today, so I just didn't notice I had screwed up by putting that in there. So yeah, it's not intended to be there. We don't want it to be there. It's like if a petition gets the number in any time frame, as far as I'm concerned, it's valid. And that's what the committee had meant it to be.
Tina?
I guess if you make it semester, like it becomes ambiguous of what time frame is that. So like if something happens the last week of the semester, do you give it the entire next semester, or does it just refer to the semester it's in? If it's the second week of the semester, like how, like is it the semester after that's 1 semester? Like I guess it's blurry what that means.
Are you yielding your time to someone? No.
Nope.
Okay. Kyle?
As Paul stated, R&E did not intend to impose a time limit of any kind. So if anyone is willing, I would entertain a motion to eliminate the time limit completely. This has to happen outside of Mike's amendment, however, it changes his intent.
Lexi?
My comment was answered with Tina.
James?
Would you be willing to amend it to 6 months instead of semester with me? Or are we?
No, it's summer.
Yeah. I yield my time.
Oh, cool. I don't care. Semester didn't make sense, that's confusing, so if you guys have a better suggestion, please talk up. And 6 months is weird because it's falling over summer. Please feel free to talk now and we can discuss this.
Tommy?
I think it probably should be a definite deadline because you can't have a petition going like multiple years. Like, you know, you say one like this year, then 3 years later it gets 250. That probably would be an accurate representation of people's views. But instead of saying a semester, because then that's kind of ambiguous, maybe say like a certain amount of weeks that equals a semester. So then it goes the same amount of time, but it can go over like, say you did it right now, it can keep going until this point in the fall semester next year. I think that'd make more sense. Because I don't think it should be able to go on forever. Kind of excessive. I'm done.
Marcus.
I was going to say a point similar to what Hunter just said, the same number of school days, not necessarily just a semester in terms of days, because during the summer, then you would have weirdness with when it would drop off. So at the end of this semester would be part way through the next semester, it would be a weird stopping point. And my second point was, or rather question, which I'll yield the floor to Paul afterwards for, in terms of when things do go over a semester, if that's how we choose to set it up, would there be a system which would would signatures that were put on there that were student activity fee paying students beforehand, and there were no longer student activity fee students paying students, would they be then backlogged and removed and require more signatures, or would they count towards the initial petition?
I believe that since it's attached to everybody's RCS ID, and when you're no longer a student here, your RCS ID becomes like dead, that people who graduated or aren't activity fee paying students anymore's signatures will become invalid. But that's probably a question we should ask when we're presenting about the website next time, because I'm really bad with computers.
Joe? Yes, you, Joe.
Mike. Hi, Mike. Hey, what's up? I'm going to yield to you when I'm finished. Paul and I were thinking of moving the deadline to within one academic year, so we remove for summer or in a one semester. Would you be interested in amending to that? Yield.
Yeah, so you mean, can you clarify more on what you mean? Sorry.
So one semester changes to within one academic year. So you have one academic year to get 250 or whatever the number is.
I like that.
Okay, so it's a friendly amendment. We are changing the idea of the line.
Point of order.
Yes,
There
so
was no amendment.
I'll take care of this. So last week, we looked up the process for friendly, unfriendly amendments since we've been correcting our rules of order over a long period. The way friendliness and unfriendliness works, it's not just the person who moved it who has to agree. It's unfriendly if anyone in the Senate who's either a voting member or the chair disagrees. So the way we're going to ask these, that's the way it works in rules of order.
Is it unfriendly?
So basically, would anyone like to declare this amendment unfriendly?
Point of order.
The amendment that Joe made, to Mike's.
Changing
To an academic year.
Motion to change one semester to within one academic year. Are we good?
Is there a
Is
second?
there a second?
Is there any unfriendly?
Okay, so unfriendly.
All right, we are going to open a queue for. We're going to open a queue for discussion of Joe's amendment to Mike's amendment to the amendments proposed by Joey V. Hold on, 3, 2.
It's just a motion.
Justin. Yes.
All right. The thing is that people can graduate after any given semester, so they can graduate in December or in May, or June or May. And I think actually there's something about graduating in August, but I may be wrong about that. Probably wrong. It would probably just be better to keep it within one semester, because it's just like there's like continuity of thought in that semester, and then like when people go on break and they lose the train of thought, it just doesn't seem like the best way to go. That's just my opinion, so I'm not in favor of this.
Tina.
I think I don't have a problem with whatever time period we choose, but I think if we go with semesterly, like Mike's original intention, then we just say by the end of the semester that it was created, then that is a pretty easy deadline, because at the end of semesters is typically where you see graduations and students either leaving or taking time off. So just instead of saying like a duration of time, just saying by the end of something. So it makes it pretty clear what that deadline is. So regardless if it's proposed the first week or the last week, it's at the end of every semester, we clear it.
Shosh?
So I don't think I can amend because we are too.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna amend later, to make it so that a signature is valid if you're a member of the union, and it remains valid until the petition is closed or brought to the Senate or brought to an election, however it's defined as being done. Because I think that like if you are really passionate about something like your last semester at school, your signature shouldn't become invalid just because you graduated.
Jacob.
So I remember Paul's recollection
side
of
conversations.
the R&E meeting slightly differently than he did. Because I think we did intend the time limit to be there in the R&E meeting, because we jokingly discussed an amendment to, or like a petition to impeach the GM, and if that like leaked over into the next GM's term, that could be bad. So we agreed that it would have to expire at some point, and we arbitrarily chose a month because that was the length of elections, and people can reasonably get 250 signatures during that time frame when people are, running for candidacy for some of the positions. So I guess it doesn't really matter too much how long you want it to be, but some time limit should probably exist. And then I guess I yield the rest to Paul.
Well, that's why I have a committee, because I screw up. So, yeah, I mean, now that Jacob reminds me, we probably did have that conversation. So, it's kind of just, right now, I feel like we probably need to have, when we are looking into the details of the site, we'll have to try to work out more details about making sure that certain things that are about a specific person who's holding office will not roll over to the next person who's holding that office, and make sure that we're able to take care of things. But one of the things that I keep in mind, or generally I keep in mind I'm trying to keep in mind right now, is that this thing is supposed to be about students being able to express their views and being able to reach student government, not about making life easy for us. So I think that having a longer time frame is just better, since it'll be able to have a better view of what students felt over the course of the past year. So, yeah, after all, we're all voting on this, so let's move on.
Just a reminder, please make sure you are staying on topic with the amendment to the amendment to the amendment to the amendment to the bylaws. We're not discussing the handbook. A lot of the topics that are coming up should be discussed when we discuss the petition referendum handbook, not Joe's amendment to Mike's amendment to Joey's amendment. Steve.
I would definitely agree with the longer time, just because I feel that, those who do graduate should still be considered they have a valid opinion. Again, I feel there should be some sort of mechanism for, if there's an impeachment petition or something like that, that should be taken down, and once it's no longer relevant. I guess that's it.
Paul.
So, one of the things about the site that everybody, including me, other than Joe, has been ignoring is the fact that since R&E and WebTech will all be moderating the site, if there's something that is tied to people's term limits or something like that, we'll be able to just manually take it down ourselves as the moderators and send the person a message saying that it's invalid now, as the person you wrote this petition about, who was holding that office, has graduated. So just because we're kind of just circling around right now, I'd like to call a question.
Second. Okay, question has been called. This requires 2/3 vote. All those in favor?
No. There's majority vote. We're amending a motion.
Call the question.
We're calling the question.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, calling the question is 2/3. Thank you. So, all those in favor of calling the question? All opposed?
Is that a hand?
Yes. Okay, passes 22-1. So we're going to vote on Joe's amendment to Michael's amendment. If this passes, Mike's amendment, sorry. If this passes, Mike's amendment will be saying 250 signatures within 1 year, you said?
One academic year.
Within 1 academic year of its posting. If this fails, his amendment will stay at 250 signatures within 1 semester of its posting. This requires simple majority. All those in favor?
Point of information.
Yeah.
What's the difference between academic year and year?
That doesn't, well, actually, you can't make a point of information, but then.
Point of information.
Okay. academic year versus 1 year. I mean, I don't know if there's a difference, to be totally honest.
Academic year is defined from the first day of classes to the last day of classes.
There you go.
Point of information, does that include the summer semester?
Oh,
No.
no.
Okay, thank
First
you.
day to last, first day of classes in the fall to last day of classes in the spring. Again, all those in favor?
Point of information, is that formally defined?
Yes. All those in favor? All opposed? All right, passes 13-6-5. We're going to return to discussion of Mike's altered amendment.
Joe?
Am I on the queue?
You are.
No longer on the queue.
Steve?
Well, call the question.
Second.
Okay, we're going to call the question on Mike's amendment. Again, 2/3 vote. All those in favor of closing discussion on this amendment? All opposed? Passes 15-6-3. We're going to vote on Mike's amendment, which would be changing the threshold from 250 signatures within 1 month of its creation to 250 signatures within 1 academic year of its creation. All those in favor?
Majority vote.
All opposed? All right, motion fails. 8-9. Wait, 8-9. Can you count that up? 17. 8-9-7.
We're going to return to the main queue. The amendment, section C, currently reads threshold of 250 signatures within 1 month of its creation. Mike was already a Jen. Yes, you.
So I had a question about your presentation, Paul, when you discussed the oversight by WebTech versus R&E. I thought petitions are supposed to be under R&E's jurisdiction only, so can you explain WebTech's role in their administration of the site?
WebTech A created the site. B, in the event that the site breaks, there's no guarantee anybody on R&E will know how to work the site and fix it, and WebTech will.
Dr. Shosh?
Let's do it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to motion to amend 1A, add the sentence at the end of it,
Wait, at the end.
at the end of it.
Or is this replacing 1?
1A.
1A. Okay.
To add a sentence.
For union, she's gonna add the sentence.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Add what? A sentence.
Okay, so a signature once made by a member of the union remains valid even if the signature changes union member status.
Can you say that last part again?
A signature, if made by a member of the union, remains valid even if that individual loses union member status. There's no dissent. Wait, what is it?
Yeah.
Not that I could find.
Do we have a second on Shoshana's amendment?
Second.
Okay.
We're going to open up a queue for discussion of.
Well, no, first, is there any unfriendly?
Unfriendly.
Okay, then we're gonna open up the queue.
We're going to open up a queue for discussion of Shoshana's amendment. Shoshana, would you like to say anything before we open the queue?
My only intention is so that, if for whatever reason you are a member of the union at the creation of the petition, that your voice still matters, even if for whatever circumstance you have to change union member status, like such as graduating, going on co-op, or transferring for like financial reasons. There's a slew of reasons. But if you sign when it's created, then it should still be valid.
Justin.
I'd like to make an amendment to this. Adding to the sentence, comma, unless they are no longer a member of RPI, and no longer a student at RPI, or however that would be worded correctly. So unless they graduate or leave.
That's
Fine.
the exact opposite.
No, because if you still are taking a leave of absence, you're okay. If you're just losing, not paying the activity fee, you're okay. If you're not, if you're going studying abroad, you're okay. If you're a part-time student, you're okay. If you're taking a semester off, you're okay. If you graduate, or if you are expelled or leave, or you leave RPI permanently, or you're no longer a student, I mean that's just like taking advice from an alumni, which we don't as we're looking for the current students of RPI. If you graduated, or if you have like chosen to like leave, if you've chosen to leave, or if you have been expelled or anything like that, you are not anything related to the union. Granted, like I didn't think of leave of absence people for whatever reason, but that's okay. But if you graduate or quit or are expelled or leave for any reason, like permanently, you shouldn't be petitioning. So therefore, I'd like to amend her statement, however it is said, to at the end of it, comma, unless I'm really sure I'm reading this correctly.
Unless they are no longer a student at RPI?
Correct.
Point of information, I'm like pretty sure the only case that would be an issue is a leave of absence. You can actually transfer to another school on a leave of absence.
Point of information to that, that's actually not true. With a leave of absence, when you resume, as long as you're still activity fee paying, you're still a member of the union. This will be a situation, as Justin said, if you graduate or are expelled. Do we have a second?
Or if you transfer universities.
Do we have a second to Justin's amendment?
Second.
Okay, do we have any unfriendly? Okay.
All right, we are going to open up a queue for discussion of Justin's amendment to Shoshana's amendment to Joey's amendment to the motion.
Confuse people by saying amendment 3 times. There's 2 amendments deep. Go.
2 amendments, all right. Yes, Mason.
So first of all, I feel like this really defeats the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. In the graduation thing, right now as it stands, the amendment expires after 1 month. So they've been graduated for 1 month. So it's not like they were that far from being a student if it's expiring after they graduate. All this is doing is, I don't really know. I don't see the point because the graduates here aren't going to be people who graduated 2 or 3 or 1 academic year ago and still are on a petition. Right now, as it stands, it's someone who graduated at most 30 days ago. So I think it's kind of ridiculous, especially since these are people who spent their time to put in their voice. Why would we cut them out because they decided to get a degree?
Justin.
Regardless, they are no longer our constituents. Sorry, you graduated. You're not our constituent anymore. So. Granted, it's only 30 days, but I mean, if you're, it doesn't make sense that someone with 1 or 2 days left in their life of RPI decides to sign a petition. It doesn't, because especially considering petitions are going to take, after that 1 month, it's going to take how many months to, it could take a day, it could take a year to actually make a change, and by then they're long gone. And like I said, the leave of absence people that are coming back do not get invalidated. Their RCS ID is still active. Their RCS ID is temporarily fine, and it's not still active, but their status is still an RPI student. So,
Kyle.
I'm not on this.
Jess.
Yeah, your RCS ID is, when you take a leave of absence, is basically like shut down. So in the case of this, if we were to amend that, it would be kicked off of this website because I've taken a leave of absence. Although you still technically can come back without reapplying, everything is still shut down because they still assume, like, you can come back just as easily, but they still assume that you're not.
Point of information, with an RCSID, there's a difference between the RCSID disappearing and becoming inactive in the card system. So that, I don't know if sysadmins have access to that information, but there is a differentiation there.
One more point of information. It's stated in the union constitution that you only lose union membership status if upon returning, you no longer pay the activity fee.
Marcus?
Alright, so I feel that it's important that we do keep these people who lose their status or within the time frame. I think it's important that we keep them on the issue of whatever is being raised, because if there's an issue that students only realize as they are seniors that are graduating, then all of the people who are affected by it are then their vote or on the referendum expires right after it's been put up. It might be a problem that's not experienced until the next class is at that same point. At that point, then we have a restriction where unless a junior class member raises a problem they haven't experienced yet, then we can't have any sort of real opinion that's put forward. And that also goes to the time frame also being related, where if it's a month and then it's towards the end of the semester, then it really prevents any sort of action being taken over the summer, which is a large amount of time for students to get something done with things. Because we did do a good amount of stuff during the summer this year, and I think that it's ample time for students to make any changes that they want before the school year starts up and they become busier with their academics.
Shosh?
Okay, so I just want to bring us back to like the purpose of a petition, because that's really the heart of my amendment and why I'm not in favor of Justin's amendment. So when you bring forth a petition, you're saying that I think this issue is important and I want other people to look at this issue. So whether it's throwing it to the Senate, whether it's putting it to a general body election, I don't think that just because, like, say a senior has like 1 month left means that their ideas of what they think is important to go to the student body is worth any less than anyone else's idea if they have 3, 6, 7 years left. So when someone makes a petition, they should be able to make it and at least have their thoughts at the time hold long enough so that the issue can be raised till its completion.
Paul?
2 things. One is just, as the chair of the committee who kind of put this together, and also just thinking, the person who signed it at the time was a member of the union in good standing. We're the representatives of the members of the union, which means that person at that time when it was made is our constituent. And it's kind of like, within those 30 days, it's close enough and it's valid enough that I feel that invalidating what their views were when they were completely fine due to something that happened within 30 days or that quickly is irrelevant. So I think that we should leave in the way Shush had originally stated it, and second, I'd like to call the question because this is getting stupid.
Second. Okay, question has been called. Again, 2/3 vote. All those in favor of ending discussion and voting on this amendment? Is that a hand, Marcus? Okay. All opposed? Is that, okay. 16. We had 23 at the moment, so 16. Okay, passes 16-1-6. We're going to vote.
The second hand actually was raised.
Oh, okay, 16-5. So in either case, we're going to vote on Justin's amendment. This requires simple majority. Again, this is adding to the end of Shoshana's amendment, unless they are no longer a student at RPI. All those in favor? All opposed?
Hold on.
Okay, this fails 117-5.
Okay, we're going to be returning to the queue for Shoshana's amendment to the motion. Edward?
Pass.
Tommy?
No,
Anthony?
Oh, okay. Basically, I just wanted to say is that, it's not like, regardless of whether or not you're worried about who gets, like, you know, who's still an active member or whatnot. There's still, you know, a 2/3 vote by you guys, followed by, you know, a referendum vote. So there'll be plenty of, you know, plenty of checks to make sure that nothing bad gets signed in.
Mason.
It's been a while. Call the question.
Second. All right, the question has been called. All those in favor of ending discussion on Shoshana's amendment?
Can we reread the motion?
Okay, so Shoshana's,
A signature once signed by a member of the union remains valid even if the signature changes union member status.
just as a point of order, we're not supposed to reread that yet. We're not voting on it yet. Doesn't matter either way though. So all those in favor of ending discussion on this and going to a vote? All opposed? Okay, passes 17-3-3. All right, we're voting. So with that said, we're going to now vote on Shoshana's amendment. Tina just read it. All those in favor of Shoshana's amendment?
Raise your hands and keep them high, please. Majority vote.
All opposed? Passes 15-3-6.
Okay, we're going to return to the main queue with the amended Section 1, Part A. I believe we are, oh, wrong subject. Kyle.
Oh, I'll pass.
Okay. Justin.
One more question. What happens when the sponsor of the petition graduates? So it's all fine, you know, if you guys want to have people that can graduate and then they sign, cool. But what about the person who sponsored it? I guess you can make the same argument that their points are still valid and whatnot, but you kind of need to have some. It says here, you can do these course of actions that follow. It probably would be beneficial to have the sponsor to here, and I'll yield to Kyle after this. It'd probably be beneficial to have the sponsor on campus / still a student / still here, so that they can assist in the process. If they're not here, I mean, it's a little bit difficult to communicate with them on there. It depends on plans and whatnot. So I yield my time to Kyle.
I recommend we resolve the remaining concerns over the time frame issue before we do any amendment related to this, simply because the time frame might make this irrelevant.
Call the question.
Marcus?
So as Kyle said, I believe that, especially with the change that we have recently made, that it extends the longevity of a signature. The time frame is no longer accurate and able to properly represent the student opinion, because he actually brings a very interesting point that if the person who proposed it goes on, then he's right, we do need to have somebody to support it, but that, again, is for later. But if someone, again, a senior, last part of their year, they are one of the most experienced students on campus in terms of life at RPI, and we shouldn't put a time frame on their vote or their opinion or what have you. And so, question, if we have, let's say at the beginning of April, an academic year from then, when does that end? Does that end at the next fall because that's the end of 2 semesters, or really, part of it, my question is, what's the definition of an academic year?
Who is that being the other two?
Mike, because he seems to have an answer for
No,
this.
I was saying I have no idea. I'm pretty sure academic. Hold on, I'm gonna motion them in a second. That should fix some of this stuff.
Okay.
Oh, a point of information, something raised by Shoshana. When you are the sponsor for a petition, you sign by default, so you are a signatory. Shoshana's amendment actually covers that issue.
Point of order, it does not, because.
It's not a point of order.
Sorry, point of information, it does not. Or how does it, reword is a question. How does it cover sponsorship? Because it does sponsor whether or not you're signing it, true. So your signature stays valid, but how does that relate to whether or not you're actually sponsoring it or in charge of it? It only covers your signature. So point of information, how does that cover
It's not really a point of information either, but I'll answer that when I come up on the queue.
Well, I'm asking for your answer.
Still not a point of information. You have to state a fact.
All right, Mason.
So I'm not going to make a motion, but as a suggestion, instead of having a definite time limit of say 1 month or 1 academic year, we could have something that it's dependent on the activity of the petition. So say 1 month after the last signature was added. So if the petition gets no signatures after a length of time, then it expires. So that way petitions that are active remain up, but once they're no longer active, they go away. Just a thought.
Keegan?
Yield.
Oh, well, I'm gonna yield my time to Mike then, because you can amend it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to yield my time to Mike.
Yeah.
Alright, so this will be weird. I motion to amend 1C to increase the 1 month to blank, and you want to describe how that works?
Okay, so essentially I got it. He is moving to change the threshold of 250 signatures within 1 month of its creation to 250 signatures blank. Blank being whatever threshold we specify. The way this works is anyone can propose a time limit. In order from longest to shortest, we will vote until we get a majority, and then that becomes the number in the blank, and each vote is debatable and not amendable. So we'll adopt a queue. You can suggest time limits at the end of that queue, or if the question is called, then we will vote on those in descending order from least strict to most strict.
Point of information, does that include guests?
I think it's any voting member, because you have to propose it like an amendment.
Get the 4, yeah, same.
Are these other points of information, or are you getting ready to go into the queue?
No, I'm getting ready to go to the.
Does this make sense to everybody? Okay.
Okay, we're going to open a queue for the procedure proposed by Mike. Let's see first, Tina.
By the end of the semester of its creation.
You ready to count? Okay, thank you. Justin?
Within 2 weeks after the last signature, sorry, after 2 weeks of the last signature. Of the date of the last signature.
Are we allowed to discuss during this time or no?
Yeah, you can still discuss this.
So it'll be after you vote. So you'll do it in order afterwards, right? So someone will say,
Like last time, then we'll debate, and we'll vote on that one. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess just suggest your time limits first, then we'll do discussion.
Edward?
100 academic days.
Mike?
a full year, calendar year.
Mason?
Pass.
Michael?
Pass.
James?
4 calendar years?
Marcus?
Pass.
Benjamin?
I didn't have my hand
I
raised.
saw your hand go up, sorry. The queue is empty.
Wait, so we have in descending order right now. Tell me if I missed anyone. First, we're gonna do 4 calendar years, then 1 full calendar year, then by the end of the semester of its creation, and then 2 weeks of last vote. Am I missing anyone?
100.
Okay, 100 academic days.
Also, we were 2 weeks after the last signature, not the last vote.
What is?
Or not last vote, last signature.
Tina?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is there anyone else had missed?
Marcus? Sorry, Mason?
I would like to suggest that the 2 weeks from the last signature be moved up above the creation of the semester of creation.
It has to be in descending order of strictness, or ascending order of strictness.
Because it is less strict.
Yeah.
James?
Within 1 month of its posting?
1 month of posting.
1 month.
Yeah, because it could be.
That's not an amendment, so that's not valid.
Steve?
For the sake of, until it's no longer relevant.
Okay, that's gonna be the first thing we vote on.
Mason again.
Just because the 2 weeks from last vote could potentially be indefinite, if people continuously voted on it, once every 2 weeks.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so that'll be the first thing that'll be the first thing. So in order right now, we have 2 weeks of its last signature until no longer applicable, 4 calendar years, 1 full calendar year. By the end of the semester of its creation, 100 academic days, and that's the least, that's the strictest that we have. Any other time limits people want to propose?
The queue is empty.
Keegan?
I'd like to propose 50 academic days.
Okay, 50 academic days, if we get to that. Anyone else?
Queue is empty.
So the first one that gets majority vote is the one that gets approved, or is the one that's the amendment?
It fills in the blank, yes. And then we can just discuss the amendment and treat it like normal. Case?
I propose 2 hours.
Okay, 2 hours, if we somehow get through the rest without resolving anything else.
So point of order, the motion was to increase, so it's gotta be bigger than a month.
Fair enough.
Sorry.
Okay, so cases is out of order. All right, if there are no further suggestions, we're gonna open a discussion queue on 2 weeks of actually, I think until no longer applicable is technically looser than that. So we'll be doing that first. Joe, is that a suggestion?
Oh, no.
Okay, we're opening the queue then.
Joe.
So, am I good? Good?
Yes. Go ahead.
So my point is not necessarily relevant to just Masons, just to overall. For the love of all that is holy and inside Kyle's top hat, please think about these things, because humans have a tendency to overthink things and end up thinking too logically and too rationally, and we end up giving someone 3 minutes to get 4,000 signatures. So just be careful when we're thinking about these things, please. Have a nice day.
Jenna.
So if there's something that's still applicable in 80 years, it could technically stay on for 80 years. Meaning we could all be dead by the time.
Yes.
Ghosts.
Okay.
Are you all set? Case, go ahead.
That one, shouldn't petitions just go away when they're no longer applicable anyway? Should that just be an automatic thing, regardless of the time frame? That's it.
Paul.
First of all, it's kind of I and probably the rest of my committee would be confused as to why everybody has so many different opinions about this one detail, which we could have looked at and sorted out, since nobody gave us any suggestions at all that had to do anything with this at all, in all the time you had this document.
Marcus?
2 things. One, until no longer applicable is ridiculous in some cases, because that leaves a group of students who may not have been around when the issue first arrived to determine whether or not the issue is relevant to student needs at the time. Now, with some cases who's in office, that's pretty clear whether or not the student's in that position anymore determines whether or not it's applicable. If it's something regarding something like student life or student's position in academics or the structure of a building, there may or may not be a definition of what is no longer significant to the student body. And second, as far as the time frames that were recommended, we specifically saved this discussion for today because this discussion was going on too long the last time it came up.
Point of order, this discussion never...
It's not a point of order.
Well, it never came up.
Keegan.
I'd just like to say that I think that until no longer relevant is just quite foolish, and that culture changes quite often on a college campus, and I'd say that the longest it could ever be possible would be 4 calendar years, and so I'd like to call the question.
Is there a second?
James seconded that. Okay, we're calling the question on this particular vote. All those in favor of ending discussion on until no longer applicable? All opposed?
Sorry.
All right. Passes 21-01. So we're going to vote on until no longer applicable. This requires majority to fill in the blank. All those in favor? Okay, all opposed? Okay, this fails 019-2. Next, we have within 2 weeks of its last signature.
Going to open a queue, Shoshana.
The reason that I think there would be a lot of complications with X time frame after its last signature is because, again, the petitions ultimately will go before either the Senate and then the student body or straight to the student body. So it's really dependent on how quickly rules and elections could throw together an election. If, say, the petition had enough signatures where it could go to an election, say like a month before GM week, so more than 2 weeks, they probably wouldn't put together a special elections with GM week coming up so soon, that kind of thing. So putting a deadline means that theoretically, like, it could go dead before it actually gets to the student body, and the purpose is to go to the student body.
As a point of information, the rules we establish here cannot invalidate the Constitution, which means this, if you look at the way the bylaw amendment is worded, this only governs when a petition has to be brought before us in GDM for us to take action. So even if a petition fails to meet that criteria, it can still gather signatures, and if it reaches 20% of the student body, we will still have to vote on whether to hold a referendum. Make sense?
Michael?
I was gonna say mostly that, so pass.
Marcus?
Same.
Tina?
I just wanted to clarify a little bit, especially for people who joined the Senate later. This discussion is part 2 of a discussion that we had in the fall, and both the issue of what constitutes a valid signature and the time frame which petitions should be open for were both discussion topics in the fall. And this is the second time we're hearing a lot of these opinions.
Keegan?
I like to say, well, this is great in theory. I feel like it can go way too long, and so I feel like we need to probably set a tighter limit on it.
Case?
I think that these rules should strike a balance between pushing for these petitions to be completed within a timely manner and allowing enough time to collect the 250 signatures. And with this one, I think it would kind of allow things to linger for a long time, and it wouldn't really push it to go fast enough.
Justin?
I disagree with Shashan's point and everyone else who said they agreed with that because this is, it's true, but basically it would be that this is the time frame for them to get their signatures. It's not the time frame for them to come before the Senate, come before the student body or anything of that sort. It is literally, as it's written, they need to reach a threshold of 250 signatures within and then whatever we're filling. So, yeah, it's technically indefinite, but it's not really, so it's not necessarily agree with it, but just correcting that point that was not right.
Mike?
So the point of this one is it can go on forever as long as you have a signature and then you have a friend sign 2 weeks afterwards, and then so on and so on.
Point of order, that would only
It's not a
go
point
up.
of order.
Oh, no, never mind.
Information, maybe.
Point of information, rather, that would mean it could go up to 500 weeks, so there would be a cap there.
Point of order, point of informations are questions, it's not statements.
What is a point of order?
Point of order implies that one of us did something wrong with procedure. Point of information is detailing fact.
It's a question.
Because
Point of
you'll
clarification.
have 350.
Continue.
Yep, continue, please.
So yes, that's a good point, right? There's a cap to it essentially after a while, but it's a long cap. There are 250 signatures. My question to, so I'm saying you can keep it going longer and longer than it doesn't have to be in the first place. R&E though, while I have you, can you remove your name from a petition?
Yes, you can on the site.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Mike, you all set?
Yeah, this is an afterward though.
Jenna?
I think Mason brought this point up, where if you have everyone signing, you have one person sign the first day, and then you have someone sign 2 weeks later, and you have that, you can have a petition going on infinitely long, or however long 500 weeks is a really long time.
9.8 years.
That's a really long time.
Jess?
Can I first clarify the wording of that? Was it 2 weeks of last signature? Within 2 weeks of.
Within 2 weeks of its last signature.
So it's saying you have to get 250 signatures within like that too. The way it's worded is, I think, different
Yeah.
than the intent.
Well,
Because it literally says threshold of 250 signatures within 2 weeks of last signature. That doesn't even
well, technically, if people
work.
keep signing, the threshold would keep advancing, so that should be fine.
No.
It's a little.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, J-Board says no, so,
Like, this is not good.
yeah,
Down.
Mason.
please stay on cue, but, yes, you can call the
There we
question.
go.
Okay, question has been called.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of ending discussion on this one? All opposed? Okay, passes 2101. All those in favor of this as our threshold?
It's no shorter than a month out of order.
Based on the original motion, it's true, that's be correct.
Okay,
Oh my
cool, you
goodness.
kill it. All right.
Oh my god, there it is.
Okay, 4 calendar years is next. Let's stay in order.
James.
All right. So I do love 4 academic years. It's very interesting because that's how long most people would stay here. But I'm gonna have to call the question.
Okay, question has been called. All those in favor of ending discussion? No, not unanimous. All those opposed? Okay, passes 21-1. Call it the vote. Okay, all those in favor of 4 calendar years? Guys, all opposed? Okay, fails 215-5. Next, we have a full calendar year.
Mike.
So the only issue with the academic one I had before was now you lost the summer, and there are some things that might come up during the summer. People might be here over the summer, especially graduate students. So I think if issues do persist past the summer, maybe that's the way we want to do it.
Justin, call the question.
Second.
Question has been called. All those in favor of ending discussion on full calendar year?
Requires a 2/3 vote, present and voting.
All opposed? Okay, 8-8, I abstain, doesn't matter either way. That fails 8-8.
16 and 6.
16 and
6.
7, because I had to. So that fails 8-8-7.
Hold on. Okay, where are we next? What's next?
No, that was called.
We're still in the
question.
queue for 1 year. That was
Sorry,
our question.
the queue is empty. Michael.
So, I didn't really have a complete thought when I started thinking, but I think the 1 year is good just because, again, it brings in the summer, but also it probably, I think if it's a serious issue that should be a petition, it'll get signatures faster than a year anyway. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Jess.
I was gonna say a very similar thing. It does account for the summer, so if like somebody realizes something over the summer and then they kind of petition it towards the end of the summer, it's not necessarily gonna be as valid throughout the year, so they might not be able to gather as many signatures throughout the semester, but then they will be able to gather them again at the beginning of that summer. Same thing per semester. In addition to that, having like a little bit of a longer time period does allow for people to kind of gather the opinions of more people, especially if they're not as vocal about getting their petition out there.
Mason.
Just more for clarification, is a calendar year defined in the Constitution or in the bylaws as a specific number of days? Because like 365, 366, you can get someone complaining.
Edward.
Yield to Kyle, sorry.
Wait, can you say that again?
Is a full calendar year explicitly defined in number of days in the Constitution?
It's
365,
Not the full calendar
366.
year is a common definition, you don't have to.
66 or 65.
That doesn't have to be defined in the Constitution, it's a common definition.
Yeah.
Edward.
Point of information, is summer session considered as academic days? Okay.
Marcus.
Point of order. What would me explaining something be?
Information.
Point of information.
Clarification.
Point of clarification. So while a petition can start or do whatever during a summer break, a referendum based on the Constitution cannot be held under any circumstances during the summer, so there will be no vote on a referendum during the summer no matter what. So this really is not something somebody needs to be concerned about if we're looking at a year and it has to do with stuff starting during the summer.
Steve.
I'd just like to reiterate the points made earlier by Mike and Jess. I really feel that this is probably the best option presented to us, and I would like to call the question.
Second.
Okay, question has been called. All those in favor of ending discussion on a full calendar year? All opposed? Just one. Okay, passes 19-1-2. So we're gonna. We're gonna vote. Hold on. We're gonna vote on the full calendar year. All those in favor of full calendar year?
Majority vote.
All those opposed? Okay, passes 16, you said?
Yes.
16-5-1.
We are going to.
No, this.
We're going to discussion now.
That's it. That puts us in Mike's amendment discussion officially because that filled in the blank. So now we're discussing Mike's amendment, which will then need to be voted on.
Wait, it can be amended?
It can be amended, yeah. Oh, not for the time limit. Yeah, that's settled.
Oh, never mind.
We would have to get back to the main motion for that.
We went into this. Who yielded their time to Mike?
This hasn't been opened up yet.
Someone
This
else.
is brand new.
Which turnover lasted?
This is a brand new.
You haven't. This is a new queue. There you go. Thanks for bearing with us here.
Tina.
I go.
Yeah.
Okay. My problem with calendar year is that, does that mean that if you start it in like June, it means by December? So I understand what you're getting at, but I'm saying, I think it might be better if you say within 1 year of its creation, as opposed to within 1 calendar year, just generally 1 year.
Steve.
I'd like to propose an amendment to change it to 1 year. Is that friendly?
I don't know.
That's fine.
360.
Okay, the blank thing is a valid.
Yes, please clarify.
Cool. So I am under the impression calendar year from, you have it on May 3rd, it goes to May 3rd. I understand it might be more confusing language, so I'm okay changing it to a full year for the day. If you want to phrase it in 365 days, that works for me too. But you can't change the time limit, essentially.
No, yeah.
I'm under the impression though that we voted on a year from your day.
What does it currently read?
It currently reads on, well, Mike's amendment, if we pass this, would change 1 month to within 1 full calendar year of its creation.
Yeah. Okay.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yours is the same.
I can grab the word calendar. I don't
Yeah,
that's clear.
Okay, let's stay in order. We gotta continue.
Do I technically still have the floor?
Yeah, you still have it.
I'd like to call the question. Second.
Okay, question has been called. All those in favor of closing discussion on Mike's amendment? All opposed? Okay, passes 20-02. Can you double check our? Got it? Yeah, we do have to vote on it. Hold on, we're taking a second to double check our head count. Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna vote on Mike's amendment. This requires simple majority. All those in favor of changing 1 month to 1 calendar year? 1 full calendar year. Thank you, Tina. All opposed? Okay, passes 2101. We are back to the main motion. This altered the 250 signatures to now say within a full calendar year of its creation.
Joe?
Not anymore.
Jenna?
Call the question.
Second.
Second.
How many people are on?
Point of information,
Six. Six. We have a lot of people
Yeah,
for discussion, so I'm gonna call it out of order.
Okay, James?
Oh, nothing.
Next is Benjamin.
Never mind.
Andrew?
So just a logistics question, so out of curiosity, and I'll yield my time to Kyle afterwards. Can you pull the petition out if you don't get necessary signatures before and then just put it right back in to restart the time?
You cannot withdraw a petition once you've submitted it to the site that we're proposing.
Okay.
Point of order, can everybody direct their questions to R&E or me since we're the ones doing this, not him?
It's not a point of order, but.
Too bad. I look like a man who cares about this.
Yes.
Anthony?
With that wrong.
His own colors. Tina?
I would like to amend Shoshana's change that she added in, for grammatical purposes. I'm gonna reread the way it's written, and it says.
Listen up.
A signature once signed by a member of the union remains valid even if the signature changes. Signator changes union member status, which to me is like really.
Should be petition for signature.
Really crazy. So I just want to change it to signatures remain valid for the duration of the petition, even if the signature changes union member status.
Is there a second?
Second. Is there any unfriendly? Okay, that's friendly.
There
That's
we go.
it.
All right. We did something.
Yeah.
Mike?
I was gonna stab someone.
You're good. Kyle?
We're approaching the end of the queue. I just would like people to consider the threshold. Is 250 a good threshold? Is it a level we want to be at? Because when they hit that threshold, we have to bring them into one of our next 2 GBMs.
Michael?
I have a question for Paul, to which I will yield my time afterwards. Where did this seemingly arbitrary 250 number come from, and how did Arnie make that decision?
After a rather lengthy discussion at an R&E meeting, Jacob remembers better than I do. It's like, kind of, we discussed it, we talked about it for a while, and it was just a number that we chose on that we thought was an appropriate number at which we feel like the Senate should have to address something. I talked to some other people about it, and they felt like some other people felt like the number should be higher, but since that's the decision the committee had made at the time, I felt that we should just leave the document and the number in there as it is, and if the Senate felt that it should be higher, it should be raised, but right now, I'm regretting that decision.
Kyle?
Actually, this one came from me. I've been in conversation with RIT about this site directly, as you know, and we've been kind of measuring how many petitions on their campus with a larger student body reached their threshold. They've had, I'll yield this back to you. They've had, I believe it is 30 petitions across their entire year in which this has been active, hit 250, and they have a larger student body than us. And their 250 isn't as robust a threshold. It's just for an official student government response. Ours is actually bringing them into GBM and giving them a spot on our agenda. So I felt that with a smaller, and I gave this to Arnie and Paul can clarify, but I felt that with a smaller student body, assuming that adoption rate is similar, we're likely to have fewer reach 250 and it'll be less disruptive to the Senate's normal business, but it's also fairly attainable. Yield to Paul.
So Kyle and I have been in discussion with RT Student Government, including their president and their equivalent to me and some other people, and their equivalent to their version of web text chair. Essentially, we discussed it with them. They kind of talked about us, told us what their number was. We shared ideas about things. I went back to the committee. The committee talked about it, ended up deciding that 250 was a good number to be at. Though if everybody's feeling the type of way about it, feel free to use your rights and stuff and amend. And I'm done.
Michael.
I just have a quick question that I believe Paul would be the best person to answer him. So we have the 250 number right now, but we also have the 20%, which is in the which is currently on the table to be on the Constitution. So if that bypasses, it just doesn't go to us at all, right? It immediately goes to referendum.
Well, if the way it would work is first, if it hits 250, it goes to us, but then regardless of what we do, if it continues and it hits 20%, then it goes to referendum.
Before the 10 days.
Please
okay. So 250, and then what if it gets to like that 20% within that 10 days before like we can? So it would just bypass us, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how the Constitution.
Yeah.
Well, the 20% thing is one of the things that it's not us making a policy, it's us stating something that's in the Union Constitution there just for so people can know the entire petition process if they're looking at the referendum petition handbook. The Constitution just says 20%, it's on the ballot.
Jess.
This is slightly off of what we were just discussing. It was just kind of a more quick clarification. I know we can't obviously like do anything over the summer. So if something was to end in the summer, would it just default to the first meeting of the fall semester?
It's in the next 10 the next 15 academic days from the first 3 weeks.
Did I miss the academic days? Okay, never mind.
Justin.
I'd like to propose an amendment. I already have it written, so instead of jumbling the words, I'll have the parliamentarian show you.
I got it. Okay, Justin's amendment is adding E under one in the proposed Article 11, which is if the sponsor loses his or her status as a member of the union, the sponsor can designate a signator as the new sponsor. So the sponsor would be able to designate another person who signed the petition to be the new sponsor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Edward seconds. Is this unfriendly?
Yes.
Okay, opening up the queue then.
All right, Justin, would you like to say anything?
Yes. So whether or not it's not very clear whether or not a sponsor's like validity as a sponsor is defined in the Shoshana's amendment. Whether or not that's true, it's kind of difficult to have a person that's no longer on campus overseeing a petition. So if you can then designate someone else. I mean, anyone else could have made the petition anyway. So if you were to switch it from one sponsor to the other, that to any other signator who's already signed it, it basically just makes it easier to make sure that we have someone on campus that's making sure that that's helping us, like that is like our person of contact. It just makes sense. If you guys don't like how it's worded, you can amend it, but that's just makes sense.
Tina.
So I understand now really the only thing the sponsor is the first signature on a petition. So if that person's not on campus anymore and students really care about it, I think someone else will step up and continue it. And the way Shoshana's is worded is that their signature is still valid because we said that it's valid for the duration of the petition, even if they're not anymore. So they would still remain the sponsor, and then other people can just support it and poster for it if they feel like it. They're just not the first person who signed it. So I do not think that this is a necessary clause, because there's really no purpose in the sponsor.
Michael?
Paul, when you use the website, if I make a petition, can I designate someone else as like the main person. As it stands right now, no.
Marcus.
So, while I don't necessarily agree with the main reason that was put forward for this being brought up, I do think it raises a good point of if a person is gone and we do feel it's something that needs to be presented, how would we get that to be presented to the Senate? Not so much whether or not it would be valid. So I do think that we should have some sort of backup for if I propose an amendment petition and it starts to get signatures and then I go back home and I can't present it, then it would be nice to have somebody who will be able to present it, because otherwise then we're relying on either one person to present it, or we have to investigate who signed it and send random emails asking if you would support this, which would then take away some of the a little bit of the confidentiality. I don't know how confidential it's supposed to be to sign a petition, but I think that there should definitely be something in place to handle that. Oh, it's not confidential. Well, never mind. At that point, it's smooth. We'll just email random people.
Kyle.
So I want to remind everybody that this bylaw amendment also states that the Rules and Elections Committee will maintain rules governing the petition process. Such rules shall be approved by a majority vote of the Senate. I really feel that this bylaw amendment should be the bare minimum. It should be the things that need to be guaranteed. R&E's handbook, which is the next thing on our agenda, includes these rules such as this, so I don't know if they're necessary to add here.
Can I interrupt?
Well,
Can I withdraw my motion?
Sure, yeah, that's interrupted.
And you just don't cross it out.
Yeah, we still have it.
So I withdraw my motion.
Yeah, you withdraw it. Okay, his amendment's up.
Keegan.
Wait, are we back in the queue now?
We're back in the main queue.
We're back in the main queue. Okay, I'd like to raise a point, and I'm going to propose it to Paul at the end. What's to prevent someone from using a list of RCISDs to make a fake group of petitioners?
If they have your RCS ID and your password to log into the site, that's a poor life choice you made.
I didn't know it required password.
You have to log into the site the same way you log into stuff in general that requires your RCS ID.
CAS authentication.
Yeah, what you said.
Mike.
So I have a question for R&E. But I will yield my time to Kyle after this. So currently, the Constitution says 20% of your class year, if I'm correct?
It says 20% of any constituency, which is vague.
Cool, so it's vague. So right now, 250 kids is 29.4% of grad students. So we're actually raising a bar a little bit, even though Constitution takes over anyway. So I feel like it's a strange number still.
Is that, you're good yielding me?
Yeah, how you feel about that?
Okay, so as it stands under the current Constitution, if it hits 20% of any constituency, which is any class year, Greeks, independents, or the whole student body, then the Senate must vote on whether to hold a referendum. This would simply mean, under the current Constitution, if we hit whatever 20% of the grad constituency is, it comes into us, and we have to vote on whether to hold a referendum. Of course, if we then vote not to, and it continues to gather signatures, and it's 250, we then vote on the courses of action described here.
Marcus? He's chewing on ice.
My point is actually related to item somewhere in D, section 1, article D. Not article D, whatever. This is definitely, now that, as it was mentioned before by Kyle, is something that we're more under the rules, but I was just going to ask that question anyway. Regarding charging one or more senators to investigate issues raised by the petition, or charging a committee to investigate the petition as an initiative, one that does allow for things to be addressed over the summer, if the Grand Marshal were to designate someone to investigate that on behalf of the Senate, is that fair to say? It's a question. I have two parts, but is that fair to say?
Can you say that one more time?
Section D, I, and II, those two options allow for issues to be addressed over the summer by the Senate. If I'm understanding that correctly, if the Grand Marshal were to so designate a senator or a committee to investigate something, that would allow for the issues to be addressed over the summer? Or would it require a full Senate vote to?
Yeah, it would. It doesn't really interfere with the 250 threshold. The 250 threshold is saying they have to come on our agenda within that time frame.
Okay, yeah. And the second thing about that was, again, this is going to be more with the rules and election committee and more of the Grand Marshal time. How things would be handled if we're charged to a person and that person suddenly decides that they no longer agree with it, but they don't make that publicly aware, and then the issue is essentially thrown out and unofficially by the Senate. So I was wondering if there were any plans regarding that, or that you had in mind that I know will be part of the handbook or the Grand Marshal's choosing. And now I yield my time to Paul, because this is his proposal, presentation.
So, if I understand correctly, the question I'm being asked is, if you put up a proposal and it gets 250 signatures, but you decide you don't actually like it anymore, we really don't have a mechanism, or whatever number of signatures, but you don't like it anymore. We don't have a mechanism to deal with that, and that's partly because related to several points that other people have brought up already. If that one person who posted the same petition feels they don't like it anymore, but enough people have signed along to it so that it got to the threshold, then it's still obviously a valid idea that other people hold. So while the petition signatory can come into the meeting and say that they don't support it or feel that it's appropriate or a good idea, there probably will be other students who side on it or people who thought it was a good idea who will be willing to speak for it. And I feel that our committee, I and probably most of our committee if they were here, would say that they feel that since it's reached that threshold of having that amount of student support, it's clearly something that the Senate should address.
Could I respond that wasn't the question I asked?
You're
Yeah, we have a lot of people in
You're
here.
Jenna.
I just want to mention that 250 is a very small percentage of both the undergraduate and the graduate population. It's only 4.7% of the undergraduate population and 4.1% of the graduate population. No, not, what? I mean, like,
30%.
total, sorry, not, like, I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to say, I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's a really small percentage, and I think 250 is too small to get an accurate gauge on student representation.
Okay, so again, remember, the Constitution supersedes this. So under the current Constitution, where it's 20% of any constituency, if we hit 20% of graduates, that the Senate has to vote whether to hold a referendum on that. This is simply a procedure we put in place for a hard number of 250 right now. The idea being 250 of any population, not of specifics. So again, what would happen in that case is it would first hit the 20% threshold for graduates. We would vote on whether to hold a referendum. If we don't vote to hold a referendum and it continues and it hits 250, we then take the normal courses of action.
You flip this, I hope.
No, for the graduates, 20% is lower than 250.
Okay.
For anyone else, we would do this first. That's as simple as it is. Under the new Constitution, that may change. Constitution Committee's discussing it.
Jen.
Mike said what I was gonna say.
James.
Which one?
Waylon.
Alright. I feel like this debate is just going to go back and forth, and we've been on this for probably nearly an hour. I would like to call the question.
Second.
Okay. There's 10 people on the queue. I'm going to call that out of order. Motion. You can. I can call anything out of order right now. You can motion to appeal if you want. You want to appeal?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so as I stated, the out of order was because we have 10 people on the queue. What matters most is we make the right decision, not necessarily the quickest. If people feel that they want to call the question anyways, you're welcome to vote yes on the appeal.
Are we discussing the appeal?
No, appeal isn't
respond to that
discussable.
or no?
No, appeal's not discussable. All right, all those in favor, requires 2/3 vote. All those in favor of the appeal? It says 2/3 in our bylaws.
Okay.
All opposed? Yeah, fails 11-9-2, I believe.
I think we're still 22. Case.
Are those two coming back?
Okay,
fails 11-9-0.
I think the 250 is a good number because if you go higher, it's really hard to get RPI students to do stuff. So you just won't get stuff passed. And in the future we can change it if we need to. So I don't think we should spend our entire lives worrying about this number that we can change to adapt to make it good in the future.
Shosh?
Yes or no?
Shosh? Your time's just counting.
Pass.
Okay. Michael?
So I don't know if I was reading the Constitution or the bylaws amendment, but I remember seeing something about we can vote to dismiss a petition if it's regarded as like unnecessary or out of order. What happened to that, and why was it removed if it wasn't removed?
Oh, that's in the Arnie handbook. That's there more as a description to students to let them know the Senate can do nothing. If you notice, this says the Senate may choose to take the following courses of action. So by default, we can of course choose to do nothing.
Marcus?
Nothing.
Kyle?
Give me 1 second.
Kyle?
Yeah, no, I'm all set.
Paul?
Okay, so part of the thing relating to the 250 versus 20%, when you're looking at 20% for an issue that or if something was raised by, let's say, 20% of graduate students, which is a larger number than that's a lesser number than 250, which is why I talked. So what happens is if it's 20% of a specific constituency, then the only ways I foresee that arising are if it's something that's specific, like the removal of a specific graduate officer, which would be like, that's a specific thing, or B, some type of problem that only the grads feel is an issue and only they think should be addressed, which would be something like, I don't know, the grads saying that all the undergrads should have to do something odd that everybody else doesn't want to do. So I think that's kind of, essentially the 20% thing is, when it's relating to specific constituents things, is essential for specific constituencies, essentially mostly for removal of officers representing a constituency or specific things like that, which is why I don't feel like it's an issue or a thing, or if anybody has a reply, motion to me, so I go for you. No? Okay.
All right, I'm in the queue. How many, point of information to whoever can answer this, how many Greeks are there and what percent is then 250 of that?
Greeks are 1,300.
Yeah.
Close to?
30%.
Okay, thank you.
250 is less than 20%.
Justin?
Also, a lot of details are still going to be discussed. I think it's on Thursday with
That's more related to the specific release schedule for the site.
No, not that.
And with the Constitution Amendment, yes.
The Constitution Amendment, that is also going to define the rules that are overarching to this. So assume, this is going to be specifically related to the site's petitions, the online petitions, if I understand correctly. So, yeah.
Keegan?
I may be wrong, sorry.
I feel as though that the queue has kind of slimmed down, and I feel that a lot of people had their opinions answered, so I'd like to call a question.
Second.
Okay, I'm not ruling that one out of order. The question has been called. All those in favor of voting on the bylaws amendment? This would end discussion.
There's 3 people left.
Ten.
10.
All opposed? Okay, fails, 10-7-3.
Jess?
I was just gonna kind of make 2 quick points, the second, I don't know. Anyway, I think, this is sort of repetitive, but 250 is a good number, because if that many students kind of are bringing up an issue or signing a petition for that issue, then I think it's valid, and the 20% thing, whatever, would, adjust for those numbers, because that overrules the 250 in a way, so I think that's kind of not as important. And the second thing was, it's been brought up a couple times, and then kind of passed over, but the issue with the person who made the petition, it's, unless I'm reading it wrong, there's not really anything stated specifically that they have to present or anything like that. So if they put forward the petition, but then they're no longer a student by the time that year comes around, then I don't see why it's an issue, because if it comes to the Senate, then it's like it's a public agenda, so then anybody who signed the petition could then come to the meeting and speak for it.
Marcus? Joe?
Pass.
Jenna?
Oh, I thought Josh had something to say, so, no, sorry.
Are you yielding to
I'll
Josh?
pass.
Tina.
All right, I'm motioning to add a clause 1AI, which will say a sponsor may withdraw a petition at any time, and to alter 1D3 to say just vote on a resolution omitting an immediate support of a petition. My justification for doing this for the first part is people have tossed around if something is no longer relevant. For example, if they want to impeach the GM, if they do it in September, come April, it's no longer relevant, and currently they do not have the ability to withdraw it. So this would mean that if the person starting it decides, hey, I started it for a reason and it's not applicable anymore, they can withdraw. And then the second part is by just voting on the resolution, we're not saying that it has to be a resolution in support. We can also have one in opposition to it.
Okay, we're gonna open up a queue.
Friendly. Joe.
Oh, actually, sorry, do we have a second?
Second, I move to split the motion into two parts.
Yeah, that's valid. Well, you can't split what this means, if you're motioning to divide the question, the motion itself is still one motion. We just vote on the two parts before voting on the whole motion. So you would have to motion to amend one of them out completely and then move it later. That's how division of question works.
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's still one motion.
If it's,
Although if one of the parts fails, I mean,
Yeah,
then
that's
you
the
only
whole-
vote on the other. But the other part would still have to be amended again if you want to vote on it again.
She can amend this.
Yeah.
She can second it. Like, before she can grab the question from two members.
Effectively. It's a
Yep,
little different.
she doesn't have the floor.
Okay.
No problem.
You seconded this, right?
Yeah, you can get it as soon as you get the floor, but show shot.
Justin?
The problem with this is that we all just decided that we were going to wait on the handbook to determine the status of sponsors and whatnot, so why are we discussing sponsors again? I thought that was why we were waiting, so it's not bare minimum, it's a waste of time. Continue.
Kyle?
I'm actually very against this for a very specific reason, which is that when a petition has been put forward by someone and signed by a large crowd, it is no longer just at the behest of that one person. RIT used the same measure in their petition site. RIT used the same measure in their petition site for a reason. And they used the same measure in their petition site for a reason, which is to say they wanted one person to not be able to dominate the will of a large crowd.
Point of order, we don't have quorum.
Yeah, you
Agreed.
lost it.
Paul, can you call Lexi and ask her to return so we can wrap this up?
Where'd she go?
Wait, we do have
We have 18. No, we don't.
Paul,
Kyle
check.
doesn't count. I didn't count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
Oh, well, I don't know.
Still called someone. All right. Show.
Stay in your seats.
I yield to Tina.
Tina.
I don't have my phone set.
My reason for putting that they can withdraw on it, yes, comes from if it's no longer relevant, but also if they decide to withdraw it, they're not stopping someone who is really passionate about who signed it from starting it again on their own. And that's completely valid.
Tina. Sorry, Steve.
I would like to reiterate the point made by Kyle. It wouldn't be fair for that one person be able to remove the opinion of the 250 others, and it would essentially force them to go through the work again of getting all the signatures, possibly postering again, just to create a petition that was already considered almost entirely valid. So I really don't think this is necessary, and I would also like to call the question.
Second.
Okay, question has been called. All those in favor of ending discussion on this amendment? All opposed? Okay, passes 12-4-2. All those in favor of Tina's entire amendment? All opposed? Okay, fails 2-10-6. We're back to the main queue.
Mike?
Cool. So, real fast, the second part of Tina's amendment did make a lot of sense and does clear up a lot of things, so I do want a motion to amend just D3 to get rid of the needs for a petition. This way, it's pretty clear, we can vote on it either way, and we're gonna do some weird sketchy thing Kyle said and say,
Yeah.
oh, it still counts, and we can say no. This lets us do yes or no. So, I think it's pretty clear to do that.
Okay, we're gonna open up a queue. Oh,
Is
sorry.
that
Is there-
unfriendly? Is that unfriendly?
Wait a second. Is there a
He's
second?
removing, wait, guys, he's removing in support from the resolution clause so that the resolution can be in support or against.
In D3.
Yeah, is anyone calling this unfriendly?
The word,
One second.
Hold on.
He's taking a second.
from in is good, from in to the end of the sentence is gone.
So vote on resolution of the petition.
I found it.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no unfriendly, the amendment is friendly.
The queue is empty.
Any other questions?
Yes, sir.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
It's a joke, people.
If we see none, we will finally move to vote on this bylaw amendment. Remember, bylaws fall under the constitutional ruling determined by the J Board, which means we need 18 yes votes. Counting myself, we have 19 people here, and I do vote on this following the J Board ruling. Yes.
Is Lexi in the house?
We're trying to get a hold of her.
I'm not covering right now.
No, no.
I haven't called the vote yet.
Call her.
Call us.
We can stand at ease. We can stand at ease while he calls real quick. That means stay in here. Go around, take a break.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just come back.
We'll be back in 20 seconds.
Hang in there, buddy. I'm sorry, Victoria.
We
Happy
haven't even
birthday.
started talking about the.
Yo, this is gonna be lovely. I have
Whoa, whoa.
Oh, no, I didn't.
That last sentence.
Okay. Let's return to order. I want to get through this quickly because it's been a long meeting and that discussion took a while. Do we have quorum? Is everyone here?
No, but yes.
Who isn't here? Who was?
Oh, no, we have everyone back who was here. We don't have everyone.
Yeah, we have
What is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
We have
7,
to
8,
get
9,
some
10.
people. We're good.
I got them in the queue.
We have 18. That's 8 senators. I don't count towards quorum. I get to vote on the motion though, the J Board ruling. Okay, so we are going to move to vote on the motion. All those in, well, I'll reread the entire bylaws amendment just to make it absolutely clear. Okay.
Let's change from that.
The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate, whereas the Student Senate bylaws do not contain rules and procedures governing the Rensselaer Union petition process, resolves to approve the attached amendment to the Student Senate bylaws. So moved by Joey V., seconded by Polly Laurie. The amendment reads as follows. This would add Article 11, petitions. Petitions shall be a means by which members of the union may bring concerns, initiatives, or ideas before the Student Senate. Petitions may only be created and signed by members of the union. Signatures remain valid for the duration of the petition, even if the signature changes union member status. Signator, thank you. B, the Rules and Elections Committee shall maintain rules governing the petition process. Such rules shall be approved by a majority vote of the Senate. C, should any petition compliant with these rules governing the petition process reach a threshold of 250 signatures within a full calendar year of its creation, it shall be placed on the agenda at a Senate meeting occurring within the next 10 academic days, excluding exam periods. The Senate may choose to address 15 academic days, sorry. The Senate may choose, these are spread across 2, it's ridiculous. The Senate may choose to address petitions at any time before this, should the Senate term end within 15 academic days of the creation of a petition, or of a petition reaching its threshold. That petition may instead be addressed in the first meeting of the next Senate. Everyone with me so far? Okay, and the final point, the Senate may choose to take the following courses of action when addressing a petition. I, charge one or more senators to investigate issues raised by the petition. 2, charge a committee to investigate the petition as an initiative. 3, vote on a resolution vote on a resolution of the petition. Was that it? Oh, so just vote on a resolution. 4, vote to hold a referendum election on the issue. And 5, refer the petition to another organization as appropriate. This is a bylaws amendment. If you abstain, you are effectively voting no. We need 18 yes votes to pass. Any questions about procedure? One full calendar year. Keegan?
So, just a quick point of information. Every single person in this room needs to vote yes or not to pass this.
One person can vote no because I have a vote.
Okay.
So it's not, we have 19 voting members. That said, we need 18 yeses, so just think about that, think about how you want to vote. We're going to vote. All those in favor? Motion passes unanimously. 19-0-0. Okay.
Kyle pointed
Yeah.
to something. Technically, isn't that not unanimous? Because the
people aren't here to
people
count,
are.
so it passes.
Well, no, because they don't abstain, they're just not here.
Whatever.
It's unanimous in the people who are in the room.
They don't matter.
It doesn't pass unanimously.
Let's keep going.
It's 19-0-0. We're going to keep going because Tina has to leave. So we have a few courses of action because Tina would lose us quorum. One, we can motion to recess and attempt to reclaim Lexi or one of the other senators.
Tommy
2,
has to go to composites.
so he'll be back.
Eventually.
Well, not.
That may take a while. I'd say no because it's very low in pecking order.
2, we can simply adjourn, but this will again overload us. 3, we can postpone the referendum and petition handbook, vote through the GM Week handbook, then adjourn.
Well, wait, but we've discussed the referendum and petition handbook essentially, so there's only one change that needs to be made, which is to make it in alignment with the change we made to this. Because
Do you want to withdraw that motion and just bring it up on Thursday?
No, because virtually everything in that handbook has been discussed already.
Do we have any thoughts on how to proceed here?
That one.
Yeah.
So you want to take care of
Hold
that?
on,
The thing is, Tina has to leave like right now.
We need
It's your
to
meeting.
It's only 9 minutes.
Just tell them you're gonna be half an hour late.
You have 10 minutes!
Alright, let's continue.
On what?
This.
We have to vote on GM Week handbook today.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, so how about we bring up the GM Week handbook first then?
Motion to
Wait.
table.
What?
Motion to table to next meeting, GM Week 2015.
We cannot!
It physically needs
It
to
doesn't
get
sound
done
like you
today.
have a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion to table everything but that.
I mean,
I don't know, but it's not Thursday.
there's no deadline for the handbook, but we need it out as soon as possible because campaigning would start next Wednesday.
It's going to.
That's what public has to
pass this week.
Yeah, what's wrong with this?
That's what.
Okay, does someone have a motion to postpone this?
No.
No.
No?
No.
Keegan.
I'd like to motion to recess, see if we can just find one person out there. I feel like there's gonna be at least one person if Tina needs to leave.
No, you don't have a second at the moment.
I'll second that.
5 minutes?
How
2
long?
minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I feel like there's gotta be someone in this like upper level. There has to be.
I feel like we're wasting time talking about this, so let's not do it.
He's motioned to recess. All those in favor of a 2-minute recess?
Majority or 3-2?
Pretty sure majority for recess. You can double check.
I'm trying.
We need to find some.
Majority, non-debatable.
7 to 8.
Okay, all opposed?
I didn't even count.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, wait, put that back up, sorry.
All in favor, please.
10. It passes, but keep going. 10, all opposed?
1, 2.
Just.
Good. Okay, passes 10 to 2-minute recess.
Go.
We're back.
Table and we'll go on to
Wait.
GM handbook.
Wait till. Don't move to
I
table
just
it,
got a
move to
women's
postpone
golf one.
it.
Please take your seats. Take your
Everybody
seats.
please take your seats. And you have to give it a
RPI
time
women's
and you're
golf.
postponing it.
Paul, take your seat.
What?
Okay,
If it was
yeah. We are resuming session. Thank you, Tommy. So, as it stands, I've discussed with some of the cabinet members in the room. I would like to entertain a motion to postpone the vote, or to postpone the motion on the referendum and petition handbook until Thursday. Does anyone wish to motion this? Do we have a second? Okay.
What's on the table for Thursday? Do we know?
Paul,
Put it this way, Thursday's agenda isn't set, so I can move other things back.
Okay, so excited.
Yes.
E-voting and, can we kill the side conversations, please, while I prepare to vote?
Checking.
Yeah.
We're just gonna check instructions.
Can he just withdraw?
No, we're postponing to a certain time. It's debatable.
Okay, this is debatable.
Is there anyone unfriendly?
It's not an amendment.
That's true. Alright, we're gonna open a queue. It's debatable.
What are we talking about?
Moving GM week to June.
Second. Call the
Okay,
question.
that's fine.
Wait, what are we voting? Point of order, what are we voting on?
Postponing the petition and referendum handbook until Thursday.
We're voting to vote on that.
Yes.
Yes.
All those in favor of voting without discussion on this? All opposed? Okay, this passes 17-2.
18-1.
Wait,
we have
16-2. Thank you. 16-2-0. All right, that has been postponed. This brings us.
That was voting to vote.
Oh yeah, that was voting to vote. Thank you. All those in favor of postponing that motion until Thursday?
Majority.
All opposed?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, well, this passes 14-4. It doesn't matter either way. Okay, that has been postponed. It'll be on our agenda on Thursday. That's the petition and referendum handbook. This brings us to the GM Week handbook. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate cannot find its motion. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate resolves to approve the GM Week 2015 handbook as attached. So moved by the Rules and Elections Committee and presented by Paul E. Laurie.
Make it snappy.
Go. I'm back. So, law, handbook. This presentation is going to cover major changes, major dates, and section by section breakdown of crap. So, logo, let's move on. So, this is R&E, you guys don't care right now. So major changes to the handbook, we made it in Publisher instead of InDesign. We're remaking all of the forms right now, partly because I don't feel like buying InDesign, and partly also, so since they're supposed to be public documents except for the RINs, we're moving the RINs as close to the edge of pages as we can so you can flip it, like fold it over, scan forms, and give them to people instead of having all kinds of issues. Campaigning starts this year before spring break instead of after spring break like it normally does, just because spring break is later than normal. Grammar. The document has crappy grammar, lots of misspelling, we fixed things, updated some of the position descriptions, and this year there's no candidate info video because the committee just discussed and decided we weren't about that life. Moving on, election stuff dates. So campaigning starts on March 18th. The Poly wants everything by March 30th. You guys can read. Moving on. What?
Okay.
Go back more. Okay, so going into the section by section changes, eligibility and multiple offices, we clarified what the classes you're in are clarified by, which is you're either classified by your credits or you're classified by your entry cohort as defined by the registrar. For parties, no changes. Though there's one minor side note that everybody tends to ignore, which is that all of your candidate assistants are supposed, in the last handbook and in all the previous handbooks and in this one, all of your candidate assistants are also supposed to attend information sessions, which isn't really followed. Anyways, nominations, so it's clarified that it's clarified that only constituents can nominate somebody to run for an office. So for example, with the previous wording in the handbook, it made it sound like Mike could nominate the 2018 senators. Because it, what? Because it said just nominations, not by the constituents. Okay, finances. So you also, one of the things that's always ignored, you are supposed to add all of your receipts in and turn them in with all of your stuff for everything other than copies that have a total of less than $1. This is just one of those fun facts things that are commonly ignored. The campaign, forming electronic groups counts as campaigning. I'm hearing about people doing it. I'm tired of hearing rumors. Stop it until the 18th when you can start campaigning. Otherwise, it may lead to already having to sanction you doing something up to what I refer to as the death penalty, which is somewhat self-explanatory. No institute, just because this is something that's a rule but not many people know about, no institute logos or institute affiliated organization logos can be used in campaign material, so you can't use the RPI.
What about Shirley's picture?
I mean, technically, but so you can't like wear your Senate logo, you can't wear what Joe's wearing, you can't wear a hockey jersey, you can't use your class council logo, etc., etc. If it's an RPI thing, you can't put it on your poster. Just because that implies endorsement of a group which may or may not be endorsing you, sends the wrong image to people, but moving on. So primaries and write-ins stays the same setup that they're set at now. GM week participation, 2 hours per candidate. You have to use the service hour form, which is the thing. Supervision and honor code, that's just a formatting thing, moving the word I will to the end of the thing before the colon, so there's not an I will at the beginning of every sentence. Violations and sanctions, so we're just formalizing the fact that to be in line with how JBoard rules on things, since you can appeal us to us and then appeal us to JBoard, we also will rule things based on the preponderance of evidence available. And notification, it's just unchanged. People will be emailed, docs will be put up on flagship. Authority of the committee, it's unchanged.
Okay, we'll open the queue.
Marcus.
So why is the video gone?
Because our committee talked about it and we decided even though a lot of people want to use the video, the feedback from the previous chair had been that not a lot of people seem to know all of the rules. We just didn't think it was a good idea. I don't have a vote, but I personally thought I looked like Twaticus Maximus in the video, so we just decided we didn't want to go with it.
I personally thought the video had a lot of good effort put into it, but you know, if you don't like it, it's fine.
Part 2.
That was part 2. I thought you looked perfectly fine in the video.
Jen?
I have 2 questions. The first one is that you mentioned your class is either based on like what your cohort or whatever year you come in as, and the other one's based on credits. So if one year you run based on your credit year, can you run the next year? Like, can you change? And
Yeah.
run?
So let's say that. So let's say that Tommy has enough credits to be a junior, because I know Tommy has enough credits to be a junior. So what happens is when Tommy shows up and goes to vote, he's asked, do you want to vote with 2017 or 2016? And then the next year he'll be asked the same question. So you just, depending on your status, you just choose whatever you want every time you vote.
My second question is in regards to printing, because I didn't run last year. How do you guys get the receipts for printing? Like, if I printed a bunch of things at the library, it just gets added to my account. So how does that get added up?
It's essentially a thing where if a receipt exists, we'd like to have the receipts, unless it's stuff that's under $1. If not, then just write it down on the form instead of writing it down and giving us the receipts.
Tommy?
So that picture of Shirley, is that I can actually make that happen. Is that doable, or is she considered an RPI?
I'd say don't do it. Yeah, or I yield my time to Joe.
So we can have no administration on posters because some administration are supposed to be unbiased. Same thing, you can't put Kyle on your posters either, or me, or anyone else.
Michael.
My apologies.
So with the video removal, I assume we're going back to the old policy. Can you explain the old policy because I forgot it?
You have to attend an information session where R&E will teach you all the everythings you need to know about information and say lots of disclaimers about if we're wrong and we say something contradicting the handbook, check the handbook. So it's just there will be information sessions from every day, Monday through Friday, the week that has the 18th in it, and then the week before and the week after spring break, every day has an information session in it, so there's a total of 10 of them. They're from 6 to 7. If you can't make one of the information sessions and you still want to run, contact rne@union.rpi.edu and hit me up, and I'll give you a one-on-one information session because I'm nice like that.
Mike.
Alright, so I have a couple points. First
What's
off.
a couple?
3.
Thank you.
Sorry, a few then, sorry.
Continue.
So first thing, I'll allow my picture in any poster you guys want, as long as you write not endorsed by Mike underneath it, so that's fine with me. Second, question to, I guess, Paul. Co-op students are not union activity fee paying members, is that correct?
You can, when you're on co-op, you can choose whether or not you want to pay the activity fee.
Okay.
So it's kind of like you can apply for the. Actually, I think I'm pretty sure while you're on co-op, you can. While you're on co-op, you can still run and do things.
Yeah. So
If you pay the activity fee.
Yes.
If you pay, so look at section 1 here in the section 1, part 1 on page 10 of this of the handbook. It says only members of the RPI union can be eligible to run, and the bottom it says students registered to be in co-op are also eligible to vote and hold office. So I just think it's wrong. It's weirdly phrased that you say only this can happen, and then afterwards say, oh yeah, this can happen too.
Let's stay in order, guys.
Let's try.
Where's the section you're talking about?
Section 1, number 1 on page 10.
Right there.
The first one. Yeah, so there it says like only members of the RPI union can run, members of the RPI union are going to pay activity fee, and then afterwards it goes, students registered to be on co-op are also eligible to vote and hold office. I think it's phrased poorly there. What is your real intention? Co-op can vote and go to elections, right? Even though they're not members of the union.
No. What happens is while you're on co-op, it's because you're still a student here, but you're a certain distance. You know, this certain distance away from campus, you can apply for the activity fee waiver. So it's that they're still members of the union, but they can vote. It's just clarifying because co-op is kind of some people think it may be a different thing, so it's spelling out clearly.
So right here it says members are those personally enrolled and who have paid the union activity fee. It's exactly what it says there. So. Are you making the co-op terms kids pay activity fees still or not? Because it's very confusing.
We don't make anybody pay that activity fee. That's
Okay, Mike, we're going back in here and forth here. Please go on to point 3. I'm going to point
I just
back
need
on.
a real answer actually. So I mean I know you're confused, so it's not you. Okay, so if I was a co-op student, didn't pay activity fee, would you guys care or not?
Mike, next question. You're back in the queue.
What would happen is if you chose to send in an absentee ballot while you're on co-op, we'd check if you're currently in. You could vote it while you're on co-op.
Okay.
That's what it says. So you can vote while you're on co-op.
Your third point?
Yeah, my third point would be, so if you are on co-op, how do you get these forms and all that stuff? Are they online?
Yeah.
They will be online. What's happening is I'm in with Gabe soon to be given the ability to make a GM Week 2015 folder on Flagship.
Okay.
And all of the handbook and all of the forms you need to run for office or absentee ballots will be put in that folder. And
Jess. I don't remember who brought this topic up. You can get a copy of your print charges off the Help Desk website. Kyle.
I think something Mike was getting at is that the language just be made a little more clear by adding as long as they are members of the union to the end of that co-op section. So if anyone wants to, you can amend that into it quick.
I'm pretty sure students on co-op
Marcus.
are members of the union.
They have to be paying the activity fee.
No. If you apply for that activity fee waiver.
Marcus has the floor.
I was just going to say that as far as changing class years between positions, being in one position and another, we have had that happen, just so you can explain more.
So basically, I ran as
Hey, you want time to
2017 and was a 2017 sender when I first ran, because when I had left, my status, I guess, was technically a sophomore or freshman at the time, so I could run as 2017, so that it was partly so I could be involved with the Senate earlier because of the way elections worked, but also just because that's what I was affiliated with. And then I realized that I could better represent 2016 because that's the class that I came in with. So I switched.
Michael.
So going back to the information session topic, so last year the way it worked was immediately once we like signed the nomination or the candidacy form, we could campaign.
Yeah.
So that doesn't occur until we go to the
You had, last year you had to do the quiz, turn
Yeah.
the quiz in, and turn the form in.
Yes.
This time it's you have to attend an information session where we'll have sign-in sheets and turn in a candidacy form.
Okay. So that all has happened before the weekend.
Yes.
Tommy.
Okay, I just want clarification because I kind of got confused by the whole co-op thing. Were you saying that someone on co-op can like run for office? But
Yeah, while you're on
someone
co-op-
on co-op can't hold office because that was kind of confusing.
While you're on co-op, you can run for and hold office.
How does that work? Like, I'm just looking for clarification. I was kind of confused by that.
It's
So if Joe here was on co-op right now, he could still be a senator?
Yes, it's one of those things that it's a life decision that that class chooses to make it. They choose to make it, and it's just like they're on co-op, they won't be able to, they may or may not be able to show up a lot, but it's, you can make them a senator, you can vote for them. And they can run through having a proxy on campus, get the nominations and campaign for them, which is a process explained in the handbook as well. But people who are on co-op, unless there's something that states differently in the union constitution, as far as I know, are members of the union, and thus they're eligible to vote and run.
Mike.
Okay, so I'm not gonna push the point any further.
Yeah.
No, I've got her right here. You talk second. You asked about printing.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, that was you.
So back in this co-op, isn't there one? Yeah, co-op.
Yes.
So if you weren't here, there's no video this year. How can they do their safety briefing or whatever it is?
They have to email me, and I would just, I don't know, set up a Skype or whatever with them.
Okay.
Talk to them on the phone.
Jen.
So I know this waiver thing is kind of confusing, but my question, I have two things. So if you're saying co-op has to be a member of the union union pays the activity fee. So they cannot waive the activity fee, correct?
I'm pretty sure the people who signed the activity fee waiver are still members of the union, or they aren't.
No. My second reason why this is applicable is that, or why we need to discuss it, is that there are students who can live outside that radius who do waive the fees, but they are not members of the union. And it's not limited to co-op students. There are grads and undergrads who can do that. So then you're saying that these undergrads and grads who don't pay the activity fee should also be eligible. If you're saying co-op who don't pay the fee.
That was one of the things that committee had misunderstanding. If somebody wants to amend it, take it out. Feel free.
Kyle.
Oh, no, I was just saying, again, it already says you must be a member of the union. That applies regardless. I would just recommend taking out the sentence about co-ops if someone wants to amend this, since I can't.
Justin.
Motion to amend the bylaws to strike the sentence about co-op.
The handbook.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have it on friendly? Okay, it's friendly.
The queue is empty.
Any further comments? Otherwise, we'll move to vote on the handbook. Just requires simple majority. Okay, seeing none, we move to vote. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate resolves to approve the GM Week 2015 handbook as attached. So moved by the Rules and Elections Committee and presented by Paul E. Laurie. All those in favor?
Well, we're unanimous of those here.
18. No, that's 18.
Paul.
Paul, you voting yes?
Sure.
Okay. Passes unanimously, 18-0. All right, so this brings us to approval of minutes. We can get through these, or we can adjourn now. It'll be quick if we do it, but it's up to you guys.
Do it. You're approved. Is anyone gonna say anything?
Okay, we're moving to the approval of minutes then. Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate approves the minutes for March 5th, 2015 is attached. So moved by Justin and seconded by Case.
I'm gonna open up a queue for discussion of the approval of the minutes for March 5th.
There's no queue, we just go to a vote.
Hey!
19 total.
The queue is yes, sir.
Oh, I was showing the queue.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. Tommy.
Tommy,
You
Joe.
objected when you made these minutes.
What?
Now yield to Josh,
No.
I didn't hear your question.
you objected when you made these minutes.
Was I objective?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, answer the question.
Do anything mystical?
The queue is empty. Joe.
Are you guys still falling for that joke? I'm still not on the queue. Keep going.
The queue is empty.
Any further questions?
Joe.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move to vote. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate approves the minutes for March 5th, 2015 is attached. So moved by Justin, seconded by Case. All those in favor?
1, 2, 3.
Whoever wasn't here, that can be handled.
Happy birthday, Vic.
All opposed? Okay, passes 1306. That doesn't require a motion. Happy birthday, Victoria. Okay, Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate approves the minutes for February 12th, 2015 is attached. So moved by Justin, seconded by Steve. These were sent out in multiple emails.
The queue is open. No.
Joe, you're not on cue.
That's actually something important to say. Just
Too bad.
Paul.
I yield my time to Joe.
Joe.
Okay,
The queue
yields
is
and
empty.
check. Any other comments?
No,
Out of order, seeing none, we move to the Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate. What?
Hold on.
No, I'm gonna vote.
Yes,
The
but hold
Rensselaer
on.
Union 45th Student Senate approves the minutes for February 12th, 2015 is attached. So moved by Justin, seconded by Steve. All those in favor?
Point of order, I demand a recount.
Roll call vote?
Are you kidding me? Keep your hands high.
Second.
Yeah, mine don't roll in it.
All opposed?
Oh.
Passes 1405. Okay. Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate approves the minutes for February 5th, 2015 is attached. So moved by Justin, seconded by Steve.
The queue is open. Are you?
She has something to say, I'm sure
Are
she
you
does.
yielding it to Joe?
Looks pretty
No. Off topic.
Okay, any questions?
Okay,
Seeing
Yeah.
I actually have a legitimate thing. Do you have flagship access yet?
No. I
Okay.
still need to meet with Gabe and he's not here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
You can email.
this is something you can talk about after the meeting.
Any points relevant to the minutes from February 6th?
So you can do that.
We have pandas?
Irrelevant. Seeing none, we move to vote. The Rensselaer Union 45th Student Senate approves the minutes for February 5th, 2015 is attached. So moved by Justin, seconded by Steve. All those in favor?
Keep your hands high.
All opposed?
Hold on, put them back up.
No, it's fine.
Put it down.
12, put it in two.
Can I ask a question that's unrelated?
No.
After. Passes 1225.
Ask a question now? Should I put the handbook up on flagship even though there's no GM?
Okay.
Yes.
We technically have reports, but I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, that's right now. So I'm in open forum on Wednesday at 7.
He has an open forum Wednesday at 7. Does anyone second the motion?
I heard a bunch of seconds.
Parking survey, I'm gonna send it out, shuttle survey.
You can vote against the motion to adjourn if you want to give your reports.
No.
I second.
Anything else that can be sent out via email, just send it out via email. Motion to adjourn is seconded. This is non-debatable. All those in favor of adjournment?
Majority, let's go home.
Do all seven.
Paul, you in favor of adjourning? Okay, passes unanimously. Go home. Have a good night.